Chapter 211. Facing Zhang Fangfang's question, Lin Xin calmly smiled and said, "These two questions shouldn't be considered problems. As for the Exorcist Mountain Pass, no matter what, we can only inform Hero Shangyu. I believe Boss has already done it. Moreover, the Demon Emperor is targeting us, and Boss has just said that if we let the Demon Emperor know that we have infiltrated deep into the demons, he will definitely chase us, and the crisis of the Exorcist Mountain Pass will be resolved. I estimate that the probability of the Exorcist Mountain Pass being directly attacked by the Demon Emperor is less than 30%. As for the second question, I think it's even less of a problem. First of all, Yi has already cooperated with us more than once or twice. When we were besieged by a Bao and his people, she took the initiative to offer herself as a hostage, giving us the opportunity to escape. Her fiancé, a Bao, even wanted to kill her in order to kill Boss and Vice Commander. How could she not hate a Bao? Moreover, they have already broken off their engagement. Therefore, I feel that the possibility of something happening to Yu Yi is very small. Moreover, have you thought about it? If Yu Ye's information is false, then how did she know about the Star Demon's great prophecy technique? Zhang Fangfang said, "This is hard to say. After all, we previously asked Yu Ye's Chamber of Commerce to help us find information about Yang Wenjiao and Duan. She should be able to guess." Lin Xin said, "Good. Then let's treat the information she sent as false." Then, could the Demon Emperor have thought that after we obtained this information, we would still choose to infiltrate deep into the demons and not escape into the Alliance? From a logical point of view, the Demon Emperor simply wouldn't set up such a scheme to let us escape. Therefore, I can almost be sure that Yu Ye's information is not false. Listening to Lin Xin's explanation, Zhang Fangfang slightly nodded and said, "What you said makes sense. It might be my groundless fears." Long Haochen smiled and said, "This concerns the survival of the entire team, so it's best to be careful." It was not easy to hide the actions of the demon gods. Moreover, the demons and demon gods would bring their demon god pillars with them during their actions. When the time comes, I'll stay and observe from afar. If there are no fiend celestials coming, it means that there is something wrong with Yu Ye's information. If a large number of fiend celestials are here, it proves that Yu Ye's information is not fake. He respected Zhang Fangfang very much. Zhang Fangfang was the oldest among them, and he was experienced and prudent. He rarely spoke, but he was usually able to get to the point. However, apart from Long Haochen, even Wang Yuanyuan disapproved of Zhang Fangfang's opinion. They had already suffered from being told what to do by others. After Lin Xin retorted, they naturally wouldn't say anything to help Zhang Fangfang. And after Long Haochen said that he wanted to observe the movements of the demon gods from afar, Zhang Fangfang didn't say anything else. This was already a relatively safe way to deal with it. "Let's go." Long Haochen glanced at the demon camp in the distance and gave the order to set off. To be on the safe side, everyone changed into the large cloaks of the moon devils and put on their magic eyes. They didn't fly anymore and quietly descended the mountain along the outskirts of the Demon Defense Mountain range under Long Haochen's lead. Long Haochen opened his mental barrier and enveloped them all. They quickly headed towards the demon camp 100 miles south. After an hour, they arrived at their destination and stopped at the leeward side of a hillside. In order to maintain a mental barrier, Long Haochen sat cross-legged on the ground. The others sat around him and quietly waited for Kai's news. Closing his eyes, Long Haochen quickly entered a meditative state. In addition to maintaining the mental barrier, he urged his mental power to connect with a special power in his body. This power was the soul chain. 2 years of seclusion, especially the deep meditation, had given him a deeper understanding of many of his abilities, including the soul chain. This epic-grade equipment linked the 7 of them and combined their life forces. With enough mental power to support it, Long Haochen felt as if he could sense the location of his companions through it before he met up with them. However, because his companions had broken the soul chain, he couldn't try it. Only when everyone reunited did he confirm that this method was feasible. At this moment, he wanted to sense Kai's location and tell Kai, and the other's exact location through the soul chain. Of course, this could only be done by himself. Unless Kai Er's mental power was strong enough, she wouldn't be able to control the soul chain like he did. Not long after, Long Haochen already sensed Kai Er's location. She had been moving at high speed, to the point that Long Haochen couldn't completely determine her exact location through the soul chain. He quickly connected the soul chain to Kai Er's perception, allowing her to sense his and his companion's location. Only then did he cut off the connection. Maintaining the soul chain for a long time was too taxing on Long Haochen's mental power. Don't be nervous. Kai is doing her best to find traces of the demon god. Through the soul chain, I can indeed sense her exact location. Let's do it like this. We will immediately follow Kai in the direction I sense. That way, as long as she finds traces of the enemy, we can act in the shortest time possible. Long Haochen could completely understand Chen Er's current mood. Her fiancé's life or death will be decided within these 2 days. How could she not be anxious? To them, time was life. The earlier they could save Yang Wenjiao, the earlier they could enter the demon's territory. Chen bit her lower lip lightly. Boss, don't be in a difficult position. We can't put our whole team in danger because of Wenjiao. I believe you wouldn't want to see such a situation. If we can't do it, we'll retreat. Long Haochen nodded slightly. I know what I'm doing. How's everyone's recovery? Everyone expressed that they were fine. After resting for more than 2 hours, their cultivation was naturally more or less recovered. Even if they were still mentally tired, it wouldn't affect their state of battle. Let's go. After testing the effects of the soul chains, Long Haochen decisively changed his strategy and led his companions in the direction Kai was scouting. He only needed to confirm Kai Er's position from time to time, then identify the direction and smoothly follow her. Because Kai had set out more than 2 hours earlier than them, and she was flying with all her strength, they were nearly 200 kilometers away from each other. Therefore, although Kai was constantly changing directions and scouting, Long Haochen and the others only needed to identify a general direction. Following that, for a full 14 hours, everyone passed this kind of continuous flight. Not only did they have to keep up with Kai Er's speed, they also had to maintain their strength as much as possible. Every 2 hours, they had to stop and rest. After flying for such a long time, they were already more than 700 kilometers away from the Exorcist Mountain Pass. At this time, Kai Er's strength was revealed. In a situation where she was constantly searching, everyone was unexpectedly unable to keep up with her speed and instead was pulled further and further away. With 4 wings spread, Long Haochen, who was flying at the very front, suddenly stopped. The others stopped beside him, one after another, looking at him in puzzlement. Long Haochen said in a deep voice, Kai stopped. She seems to have discovered something. Hearing him say that, the most excited one was Chen. Ignoring the exhaustion from the long journey, she immediately said, Then should we also follow and take a look? Long Haochen pointed below and solemnly said, Let's go down and rest first. You must calm down. If you really discover an enemy, you can't be impulsive. Otherwise, not only will you not be able to save people, it will have the opposite effect. Everyone first rest. Long Haochen rarely spoke so sternly to his companions, because Chen Er's heart was already in chaos. If he didn't let her sober up, once she made a mistake, it would very likely affect the overall situation. Chen agreed, no longer saying anything else. Everyone landed together and found a hidden place to stop. They immediately sat cross-legged and began to meditate, recovering their physical strength. Long Haochen once again activated the connection between his spiritual force and the soul chain, conveying their specific location to Kai Er. He stopped in one place for a long time without moving. After about a quarter of an hour, she moved again, this time with a sudden increase in speed, rushing towards Long Haochen's side. At this time, Kai was already close to 300 kilometers away from them. Even if they flew at full speed, it would still take them close to an hour to catch up. Long Haochen cut off the spiritual link and concentrated on guarding his body absorbing the light elements from the outside world into his body to recover the previously consumed spiritual power. He was almost certain that Kai must have found something. As the core of the team, he had to restore his condition to its peak. But he didn't tell his companions about his judgment. They needed to maintain a calm state to recover their spiritual power. Sure enough, in less than an hour, Kai had already descended from the sky, floating in front of everyone, also waking them up from their cultivation. At this time, Kai's face looked slightly pale. Continuous exploration and search for more than 16 hours had taken a considerable toll on her. Long Haochen floated up and stuffed a large recovery elixir into her mouth. His right hand pressed on her back, and his pure light elements poured into Kai's body. Kai's spiritual power was a very special attribute. Full of explosive power, it could be called the slaughter attribute, completely brought about by the inheritance of the Grim Reaper. Her spiritual power didn't resist any other spiritual power. In other words, any element of any attribute could be absorbed by her and turned in her own power. With the help of Long Haochen, Kai's breath gradually calmed down. She nodded to Ning, who was watching her anxiously. "I found it, a demon with a large group of ox demons. I saw Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi who were being escorted by them. A conservative estimate of the number of ox demons is about 10,000. Can you identify which demon it is?" Long Haochen stopped Ning, who was so excited that she almost jumped up, and gestured for her to calm down. Ning stuck out her tongue. Then she calmed down and didn't ask further. Hearing Long Haochen's question, Kai's face suddenly became a lot more solemn. "It's the dragon rider demon Asmodeus." Who was still very excited a moment ago, heard Kai's words and suddenly took a deep breath, and her face became a lot paler. The other people's faces also didn't look good. They were in big trouble this time. As the leaders of the younger generation of the major temple, they were naturally very familiar with the 72 demon pillars of the demons. Dragon rider demon Asmodeus ranked 32nd among the 72 demon pillars of the demons. The ranking of the demons was based on their comprehensive strength. Although Asmodeus was ranked 32nd, his combat strength was the strongest among the demon pillars ranked after 24th. Asmodeus didn't have many special abilities like Clauzel, the demon pillar of insight. However, his powerful frontal combat strength was very famous among the demons. His internal spiritual power was at least more than 200,000, and he had his own territory. Asmodeus had 3 heads, respectively an ox head, a human head, a ram head, and a snake tail. He had an infernal dragon as his mount, and his weapon was a spear with a skull flag. The ox head was responsible for attack, the ram head was responsible for defense, and the human head was responsible for intelligence. He had an extremely balanced ability. It was unknown how many human powerhouses had suffered a great loss in his hands. Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi's 2 teams of monster hunters encountered Dragon Rider Demon Asmodeus. It was no wonder that they were completely annihilated. Long Haochen held Kai's somewhat cold little hand and said, "Very good. With accurate information, we can make arrangements. You should rest immediately." "Okay." Kai nodded and didn't say much. She hurriedly sat down at the side and immediately entered a state of meditation. Long Haochen motioned for everyone to sit down, and he also sat next to Kai and said in a deep voice, "Dragon Rider Demon Asmodeus is a powerful demon lord. With our current strength, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to kill him. This demon lord's attack and defense are quite strong, and the strength of his mount is also close to the standard of a level 10 demon beast. Moreover, we can't reveal our identity yet, so Hao Yue can't join the battle to help us. Now let's formulate the following tactics." As he spoke, Long Haochen picked up a branch from the side and began to draw on the ground, explaining as he drew. The others listened to his arrangements and nodded repeatedly. "Everyone, remember, our goal is to save people. Remember not to be obsessed with fighting." After saving Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi, you all immediately gather. With Dragon Rider Demon Asmodeus here, It won't be easy for us to escape. If we really can't escape, we will rely on the Tower of Eternity to teleport. My teleportation ability can probably be about 10 to 15 meters in diameter. Therefore, you must gather together as much as possible while moving closer to me. Do you understand? Everyone nodded. Only Chun hesitated. Boss, but like this, you... Long Haochen smiled slightly and said, why? Don't you trust me? Chuning shook her head hard, clenched her fists, and didn't say anything more. She couldn't thank Long Haochen and her companions for their great kindness, and she deeply remembered it in her heart. 10,000 demon army quickly rushed through the wilderness. These 10,000 demons were all ox demons, heavy infantry. Ox demons were a large clan among demons, but unfortunately, they didn't have demon god bloodline. Therefore, although their clan was quite powerful, their position among demons couldn't be compared to bear demon, hell demons, and the like. Of course, compared to dual blade demons, wolf demons, and the like, they were still much stronger. The Ox Demon army was mainly fighting against the Soul Temple at Myriad Beast Pass, and these 10,000 Ox Demon heavy infantry were temporarily transferred from there by Dragon Rider Demon Asmodeus to support the Exorcist Mountain Pass. The Exorcist Mountain Pass suddenly lost 2 demon gods. Emotion Demon God City was injured, and with the constant harassment and sneak attacks from the Assassin Temple, the originally absolutely advantageous situation suddenly became extremely disadvantageous. Dragon Rider Demon God Asmodeus received Demon Emperor's order to go to the Exorcist Mountain Pass as reinforcements. Over at Myriad Beast Pass, although the battle was fierce, the summoned beasts of the Soul Temple were too difficult to deal with, and there wouldn't be much progress in a short time. Ox demons didn't have demon god bloodline, and had always been very close to Asmodeus, who had a bull head. After seeing this demon god, they immediately proposed to send some reinforcements for Asmodeus to mobilize. Ox demons were all tall and strong men. Although they weren't as valiant as bear demons, they were still more than 2 meters tall. Their bare upper bodies were covered with thick bronze muscles, and their backs were especially broad. Looking at the muscles like lumps of iron made people tremble. They had 2 horns on their heads, and once they charged, even a steel plate as thick as half a foot could be smashed through. The most ordinary ox demons were 4th grade experts. Their clan leader's cultivation was as high as 8th grade. Like most of the demon race, the weapons of the ox demon race's warriors were also uneven, but most of them liked to use heavy weapons such as axes and hammers. Demon God Dragon Rider Asmodeus was still very easy to recognize among this group of Ox Demon heavy infantry. Although the Ox Demon was strong, it paled in comparison to the dragon-riding demon god. Asmodeus was also naked, and his lower body was wearing dark blue shorts. His skin was dark. He was more than 3 meters tall, and there were 3 heads on his neck. The center was a human head, and the left and right sides were bull heads and ram heads respectively. His dark muscles emitted a metallic luster, and his majestic body was like a mountain standing in the middle of an army. The Hell Dragon Rider was more than 15 meters long, a little similar to a bone dragon, but its bones weren't as thick. However, its entire body was covered in pitch-black flames. Deep purple hellfire danced in its eye sockets. The surrounding ox demons were at least 20 meters away from it. Otherwise, they would be roasted by hellfire. The ox demon had been running all this time, and this had been going on for 10 days. The biggest characteristic of ox demons was their super endurance, and they were the most powerful of all the other demons of the same rank. They were adept at long-distance raids. They could even carry heavy loads. Not far behind Asmodeus, there were 8 ox demons pulling a prison carriage. The tumbrils were huge iron cages with 4 wheels. 2 people were imprisoned inside, their hands were locked, and their heads were stuck outside the iron cage. Their hair was unkempt, and their bodies were covered in blood. Their faces could no longer be seen. Only the occasional twitching of their bodies proved that they were still alive. If Asmodeus didn't think that they were still useful, he would have killed them a long time ago. However, these 2 humans were seriously injured, and they were not far from death. If Asmodeus hadn't given his subordinates the order to keep them alive, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on a long time ago. They relied on some liquid food to maintain their lives every day. Asmodeus, who was riding on the back of the Hell Dragon, looked up at the sky. His 3 heads had 3 thoughts, but they shared a common body. Oxhead said impatiently, "This is too slow. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have brought these ox demons." Ramhead snorted and said, "Aren't you the one who insisted on letting these ox demons follow us because you feel proud? If we were going by ourselves, we would have arrived a long time ago. Not only are we bringing so many ox demons, but we also have those 2 burdens." The human head in the center said coldly, "Both of you be quiet. Do you need me to explain it to you again? These 2 humans are demon hunters, and they are the leaders of the monster hunters. For them to have such cultivation at such a young age, they are definitely not nameless among humans. If we can use their lives to exchange for a demon god's crown, we will have made a great contribution." Hearing the human head speak, the ox demon and ram head immediately became obedient. The human head frowned and said, "We will reach our destination in 3 days at most." Just as he said that, the resolute human head suddenly turned to look in a direction, and his eyes immediately froze. On a hill that their group passed by, a series of roars could be heard. A large number of demonic beasts rushed down from the hill, heading straight for the ox demon army. The ox demons were also a race that was good at fighting. Without needing Asmodeus's instructions, they had already formed a formation and charged forward. There were quite a number of demonic beasts coming down from the hill. Although some of them were weak, most of them were at least level 4. There were also a few level 8 and level 9 demonic beasts that were particularly valiant. In the center of these demonic beasts, there was a huge evil eye that was more than a meter in diameter. It waved its 4 long tentacles, and layers of spiritual waves continuously spread out from its huge single eye. Those demonic beasts seemed to be under its command, advancing and retreating according to their orders, and brazenly clashed with the ox demon army. Buzz! A layer of intense, distorted ripples fanned out and descended on the ox demon's heavy cavalry. Affected by the distorted ripples, a large number of ox demons stiffened. After being hit by the ox demons behind, they immediately fell into chaos. Meanwhile, the hundreds of demonic beasts that had already rushed down the hill immediately launched a frenzied attack based on their respective instincts. The Evil Eye Overlord was still in the center, releasing spiritual magic one after another to stimulate its own demonic beasts. At the same time, it used spiritual attacks to disrupt the ox demon army. For a moment, they were at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, but they actually managed to kill the ox demons. Meanwhile, the following demonic beasts continued to rush down from the hill. However, these 10,000 ox demons were the regular army of the demons, after all. After a short period of chaos, they quickly stabilized their formation and fought head-on with the demonic beasts. One by one, the demonic beasts were gradually killed under their encirclement, and the ox demons were also constantly injured. A thick smell of blood gradually drifted in the air. The dragon rider demon god, Asmodeus, did not pay attention to the battlefield. Instead, he looked at the top of the hill. These demonic beasts came too suddenly. How could there be so many demonic beasts in a place like this? Moreover, they were moving together despite the huge difference in race. There was only one possibility, which was that they were human summoners. At this moment, the total number of demonic beasts that rushed down from the top of the hill had exceeded 500, causing a lot of damage to the ox demon army. Asmodeus was trying to determine the total number of summoners on the hill. He was not in a hurry to attack. Relying on these summoned demonic beasts was not enough to break through the ox demon army's formation. Chirp! With a sharp chirp, the colorless, distorted ripples exploded again. This time, the huge single eye of the Evil Eye Overlord turned completely blood red. As the owner of spiritual magic, the Evil Eye's attack power was unleashed at this moment. Wherever the distorted ripples passed, it was the densest area of the ox demons. The ox demons that were impacted by the distorted ripples were instantly stunned. However, this time, They did not recover from the spiritual shock like before. The next moment, there was a series of puffing sounds. Blood splattered everywhere. The ox demons that were swept by the distorted ripples all bled out of their orifices and died. This time, at least 300 ox demons were instantly killed, which also bought some time for the demonic beasts that were besieged by the ox demons. Some of the stronger demonic beasts immediately unleashed their ultimate skills, forcing an opening in the ox demon army's formation. From the start of the battle until now, it had only been 10 minutes, and the ox demons had lost almost 1/10 of their numbers. However, among the 500 demonic beasts that rushed down from the hill, half of them had died. After launching a powerful attack, the Evil Eye Overlord seemed very weak. Its 4 long tentacles whipped on the ground, and its body flew backward, heading straight for the top of the hill. Trying to escape, the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus snorted coldly and pointed the huge spear in his right hand in the direction of the Evil Eye Overlord. From the skull flag at the front of the spear, a ball of black light shot out, forming a black skull with a diameter of 1 meter in the air, and flew straight in the direction of the Evil Eye Overlord. The other demonic beasts were fighting without a care for themselves, but the Evil Eye Overlord was obviously not an ordinary summoned demonic beast from the start of the battle until now. In Asmodeus's opinion, it should be the demonic beast of a powerful summoner. Even he hated this kind of spiritual beast, so he naturally did not intend to let the Evil Eye Overlord go back alive. Seeing that the black skull was about to catch up with the Evil Eye Overlord, suddenly, a golden light shot down from the hill and guided the Evil Eye Overlord. With a whoosh, the Evil Eye Overlord suddenly accelerated, leaving the black skull behind. In the next moment, a figure shimmering with orange light suddenly blocked the path of the black skeleton. The orange light flashed violently, and with a poof, the black skull collapsed, turning into wisps of black gas that dissipated in the air. A knight in golden helmet and armor suddenly appeared there. The knight was riding on a handsome starlight unicorn. Its wings were spread, and its whole body emitted a holy light element aura. It was the shield in the knight's hand that blocked the black skull just now. Other than summoners, there was also a knight. The human head in the center of Asmodeus's mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. He stomped on the hell dragon, and the hell dragon's bone wings emitted black flames. The bull head, human head, and ram head all emitted the same black flames as the hell dragon's body, and the spear in his hand pointed at the knight on a golden pedestal in the distance. In a sense, Asmodeus could be considered the knight of demons. Seeing a human knight, his heart couldn't help but burn with fighting spirit. Among the demon gods, he was a little similar to the berserk demon god Anan. They were both absolute admirers of individual heroism. The stronger the enemy, the stronger the fighting spirit. Slapping the hell dragon's back with his right hand, the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus leaped up, and his tall and strong body stood on the hell dragon's back with a flag spear that was more than 5 meters long. He stood on the back of the hell dragon with a burning gaze and stared at the long houchen opposite him. Thick black flames burst from him and the hell dragon at the same time, as if they were going to burn the sky. The hell dragon let out a wild roar, and had already rushed towards the knight on a golden pedestal riding on the starlight unicorn. Without a doubt, the knight on a golden pedestal who appeared here at this time was naturally the leader of the Light of Dawn monster hunters, Long Houchen. The previous beast tide was naturally completed by Chun Inger alone, relying on the 18 living soul gates to summon more than 500 demonic beasts. The terror of a high-grade summoner was undoubtedly evident. Among the 500 demonic beasts, there were more than a dozen level 9 demonic beasts that were equivalent to human level 8 powerhouses. If the Ox Demon army wanted to eliminate all of them, it would consume a lot of their own strength. To a large extent, they stalled the demon army. After completing the summoning of the living soul gates, Chun was recovering her mental strength. Don't forget, she still had Madul. It could be said that in the past 2 years, the one who had the greatest growth among the Light of Dawn monster hunters was not Long Houchen, but Chun Inger. From being the least useful in the team to now, She was using her own strength to prove to all her companions that she was an indispensable part of the team. His left hand was holding the sun-moon divine snail shield, and his right hand was holding the aria of the goddess of light. Asmodeus' powerful aura was locked on him. Long Houchen raised the heavy sword in his hand, and his whole body shone with a dazzling golden radiance. The light elements in the air were gathering towards him at an alarming rate. The golden foundation armor instantly emitted a strong golden flame. The clear flame was filled with an incomparably pure aura of light. Star King flapped his wings and rushed towards the infernal dragon that was several times his size. Asmodeus pointed his spear forward, and with a loud roar, a sharp black flame spewed out from the tip of the spear. It turned into a dragon head in the air and went straight for Long Houchen. Compared to the attack on the evil eye, this attack was obviously much stronger. At the same time, the sky behind Asmodeus became pitch black. At this moment, a golden light separated from Long Houchen's back. Then, a milky white light beam shot out from Long Houchen's back and went straight for Asmodeus. Black and white formed a sharp contrast in the air. Asmodeus swung his spear horizontally, and the black flame dragon head suddenly deflected a bit, just in time to bite the white light. However, what made the Demon King surprised was that the white light beam did not seem to encounter any obstruction. It directly drilled through the dragon head, and in the next moment, it landed on his body. A strange feeling instantly spread through Asmodeus's body. The knight opposite him seemed to have become his mortal enemy, and killing him became the only thought in Asmodeus's mind. That's right, that white light was not an attack, but an evolved version of the Saint's spiritual stove released by Yiting. The Saint's spiritual stove could attract the enemy's attention, making him the enemy's first target, but could not affect the enemy's attack power. At the same time, when the Saint's spiritual stove was used on Asmodeus, the black flame dragon head that he had released earlier had also arrived in front of Long Houchen. Sun-Moon Divine Snail's shield blocked in front of him. Divine Defense Block. Boom! Long Houchen deliberately used his own strength to resist the opponent's attack, because he wanted to know the extent of Asmodeus's true strength. The moment the black dragon head hit the Sun-Moon Divine Snail's shield, Long Houchen couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Asmodeus's attack was filled with powerful dark spiritual power. After the almost viscous dark element hit the Sun-Moon Divine Snail's shield, it was like maggots on a tarsal bone, spreading along both sides of the shield towards Long Houchen's body. Not only that, the terrifying impact directly bombarded Long Houchen and the Star King in the air for more than 10 meters before stabilizing his body. Divine Defense Block was the knight's most practical and important skill. As long as it was used properly, it could resist an enemy's attack that was 3 times stronger. And if there was a powerful shield, then the power of Divine Defense Block could be further enhanced. There was no doubt that in the entire Temple League, there might not be a better shield than the Sun-Moon Divine Snail's shield. Long Houchen's own understanding of Divine Defense Block had reached the point of perfection. But even so, he was not able to completely dissolve the enemy's attack. The violent impact caused the Sun-Moon Divine Snail's shield to burst out its own power. Long Houchen only felt that the spiritual power in his body was falling rapidly. Fortunately, he had the Starlight Divine Beast Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield in his hand, which had an innate ability to restrain dark spiritual power. This prevented the black flame dragon head's corrosion from spreading and was cleansed by the light. But just from this probing collision, Long Houchen judged that the opponent's strength was far above his own. When the strength of both sides was about the same, the Saint's spiritual stove could effectively restrain the opponent. But if there was a large difference in strength, then it would become a life-threatening talisman. After sending Long Houchen retreating with one strike, the Dragon Rider demon god Asmodeus's infernal dragon also instantly accelerated, almost chasing after Long Houchen's retreating figure. He had already arrived in front of him. The banner spear in his hand swept horizontally, directly sweeping towards Long Houchen, who was on the Star King's back. On top of his spear, there was a swift and fierce black lightning. If seen from afar, At this moment, Long Houchin was only a small ball of golden light, while the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus was like a dark cloud that covered the sky and covered the sun as he rushed towards him. It was also at this time that Long Houchin made a decision that Asmodeus did not expect. The orange light converged. He actually put away his strongest defense, the sun-moon divine snail shield. Instead, he held the aria of the goddess of light with both hands. Facing Asmodeus's sweeping spear, the heavy sword in his hand made an upward, slashing movement from below, courting death. Asmodeus coldly snorted in his heart. The bull head on the right side of his neck issued a wild roar, and the banner spear's power increased. Even if there was a mountain in front of him, he would still sweep it in half. Chapter 2:12. In the distance, the members of Light of Dawn who were hiding in the dark couldn't help but want to rush out, but were stopped by Kyr. Believe in him. He can do it. Ding! A crisp sound of collision rang out, and an incredible scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. Facing Asmodeus's powerful sweep, Long Houchin actually gave up on the sun-moon divine snail shield and only used the aria of the goddess of light to face the enemy. What was shocking was that when the heavy sword collided with the flag spear, Asmodeus's flag spear was actually flicked away by Long Houchin. That's right, a scene that everyone thought was impossible happened just like that. After Asmodeus's flag spear was flicked by the aria of the goddess of light, it seemed to have found another path forward and swept over Long Houchin's head. It was also at this moment that Long Houchin made his move. He used the most basic entry skill of the Punishment Knight, Sudden Stab. Golden light flickered, and the orange-red, dazzling light blade was retracted. Asmodeus punched out with his left fist and met Long Houchin's attack head-on. Ram head roared. Another soft ding sound rang out. Asmodeus, who was standing on the back of the infernal dragon, actually swayed a little. If someone could look closely, they would see that there was an additional wound on his left fist. Long Houchin's pick and stab could only be described as ingenious. After that attack, he didn't stop, for spiritual wings instantly rushed out from his back, and he seemed to have no intention of hiding his identity anymore. His body flew backward, and the Star King was recalled. Asmodeus, do you dare to compete with me in martial arts? Asmodeus didn't expect that his opponent, who was obviously far weaker than him, could actually hurt his body. The most important part of Long Houchin's attack just now was that pick. What he picked was the weakest spot on Asmodeus' flag spear. It was also the weakest point. He didn't touch it directly, but he simply borrowed the force to change Asmodeus' attack route and made him leave an opening. For Long Houchin to be able to achieve this under such a disparity in cultivation, it could be said that he had reached the pinnacle in terms of the application of techniques. However, the difference in strength between him and Asmodeus was too great. After the first strike, he couldn't use sword intent for the second strike. Otherwise, that strike would definitely threaten Asmodeus to a greater extent. You dare to provoke me? You're courting death. Asmodeus shouted angrily as he tapped the back of the infernal dragon and chased after Long Houchin at lightning speed. At the same time, a strange scene appeared. The huge body of the infernal dragon, which was his mount, instantly disintegrated into pieces of bone armor that fell on Asmodeus's steel body. In an instant, it completely covered his body. Intense black flames burst out in an instant, and all the other elements in the air, except for the dark element, were madly driven away. Although Asmodeus was furious, he definitely wouldn't underestimate his opponent. The fact that Long Houchin could hurt him had already aroused his vigilance. He could naturally see that the aria of the goddess of light in Long Houchin's hand wasn't an ordinary weapon. It wasn't a wise choice to clash with this epic heavy sword head-on with his body. The infernal dragon armor was somewhat similar to the fusion between Hao Yue and Long Houchin, but it was still inferior in terms of level. The fusion between Hao Yue and Long Houchin was a kind of bloodline compatibility, while the infernal dragon and Asmodeus were simply covered in armor. There was an essential difference. However, even so, the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus's infernal dragon armor increased its ferocity. The pair of huge bone wings on its back flapped, and it caught up to Long Houchin almost instantly. The flag spear in his hand transformed into tens of thousands of black rays in the air, and they went straight for Long Houchin's body. What was more terrifying was that in the attack of his flag spear, there were countless black skeletons surging out of the skeleton flag, covering a larger area. It seemed like they were going to devour Long Houchin in an instant. The golden rays swallowed and spat. Facing such a pursuit, Long Houchin no longer retreated. He still held the aria of the goddess of light in both hands. In an instant, his entire body was covered by a layer of golden flowing light, giving people the feeling that he was no longer a person, but a simple sword. A sharp sword intent erupted in an instant, and a dazzling golden light burst out from Long Houchin's eyes. His body seemed to be swaying erratically in the spear light. Ding, 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 ding. Amidst a series of crisp collisions, a ball of golden light was shrouded in a huge mass of black light. It seemed to be struggling left and right, but the black light just couldn't get close to him. The aria of the goddess of light was used by Long Houchin in a very small range. The tip of the sword kept changing directions, and every time it was flicked, it was completely borrowing force. He would never clash head-on with Asmodeus. The flag spear in Asmodeus' hand was constantly flicked to the side. As for those black skeletons, they were directly purified by the golden flames that emerged from Long Houchin's body. Asmodeus' eyes flickered with shock. He never expected that this seemingly weak opponent would have such superb skills. Even with his strength, when attacking Long Houchin, he actually felt a sense of powerlessness, but he couldn't exert it. Every strike of Long Houchin's was aimed at the weakest part of his attack, so the flag spear naturally changed direction and couldn't really exert its attack power. Once or twice could be said to be a coincidence, but in the face of his wide-area attack, none of his spear could really collide with Long Houchin. How could it still be a coincidence? It was as if Long Houchin had another eye that could instantly capture all his weaknesses. In fact, even Long Houchin's companions didn't know that Long Houchin's strongest ability was definitely not offense, but defense. Although he was a disciplined and guardian knight, don't forget what he chose when his father asked him to choose. In the past 2 years, Long Houchin hardly practiced the disciplined knight skills, and all his electives were the guardian knight skills. At this time, although he was using a sword to fight the enemy, in fact, he was purely defending. Back then, when he was still in Odin Town, Long Houchin followed his father to practice, and his first lesson was to face the extremely terrifying owl ants at that time. Every day, he faced thousands of owl ants in the anthill, and the only thing he could rely on was the bamboo sword in his hand. If he couldn't block the owl ant's attack, it would be extremely painful. At that time, Long Houchin had already begun to practice defense skills. Before Long Xingwu left, he had already made some achievements in his skills. Without using spiritual power, even Long Xingwu couldn't attack Long Houchin's defense. Should this sword defense skill be a disciplined knight skill or a guardian knight skill? In Long Houchin's heart, he classified it as a guardian knight skill. Over the years, with the continuous improvement of his strength and a deeper understanding of martial arts, coupled with the training in the Tower of Eternity, Long Houchin's martial arts were gradually reaching great success. With his current cultivation, it was absolutely impossible to defeat the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus. But if it was just a competition of martial arts, it would not be so easy for Asmodeus to suppress others with force. With the previous lesson, Asmodeus didn't even dare to attack recklessly. He had already felt Long Houchin's attack before. Once he revealed an opening, he would face the attack of Long Houchin's body and sword as one. Of course, Asmodeus had many ways to suppress Long Houchin's martial arts. However, as a demon god who focused on individual combat power, how could he not be excited when he encountered an opponent like Long Houchin? For a moment, he was unwilling to use a more powerful ability to quickly destroy Long Houchin. Instead, he only used martial arts to compete with Long Houchin. The battle between the black and gold in the air was in full swing, but neither could do anything to the other. Long Houchin relied on his own strength to restrain Asmodeus. This was also the most important part of his entire plan. Only by restraining the dragon rider demon god could his partners successfully carry out their other plans. Of course, what Long Houchen displayed now wasn't his full strength. He also had a trump card. Asmodeus was the 32nd ranked demon god. Once he used a more powerful ability, Long Houchen naturally had to reserve some strength to deal with it. At this time, he had already revealed his 4 wings and didn't plan to hide his identity. The Demon Emperor had predicted through Star Demon Vasak that he would come near the Exorcist Mountain Pass. So he came. He even planned to inform the Demon Emperor of his movements through Asmodeus's mouth, thus removing the danger of the Exorcist Mountain Pass. This was all part of his overall plan. While the battle between Long Houchen and the Dragon Rider demon god Asmodeus was in full swing, the magical beast army on the other side was also in its final moments. Of the 500 magical beasts, only 30 or so were left, but they were all level 7 and above magical beasts. Under their attacks, the Ox Demons also suffered heavy losses. However, the Ox Demons were quite powerful in both attack and defense. As the saying goes, ants can bite an elephant to death. Their fearless attacks were constantly reducing the number of magical beasts. It was also at this time that a sudden change occurred. From the bellies of the magical beasts at the back, several people suddenly jumped out. The person in the lead, wielding a blood-red heavy sword, let out an angry roar and brazenly rushed out. The heavy sword in his hand flashed, and several huge golden rays of light tore through the air, tearing the bodies of the Ox Demons to shreds. Like a sharp knife, he charged into the demons' camp. Not only that, but 2 even more valiant figures burst out on his left and right. A silver light on the left and a golden light on the right. The silver light scattered, and whether it was the weapons in the hands of the Ox Demons or their powerful bodies, as long as they came in contact with the silver light, they would instantly be cut into pieces. At the same time, an even larger silver light flew out with an ear-piercing sound, sweeping away the Ox Demons. The scene on the other side was even more valiant. That golden light burst out from a huge metal ball, and wherever the metal ball passed, there was a thunderous roar. None of the Ox Demons could get close to it, and they were immediately blasted into pieces. Apart from the 3 of them, there was also a mage standing proudly at the back. He waved the staff in his hand, and 12 bursting fireballs flew in all directions, exploding in the densest group of Ox Demons. The blue fireballs were like blue ghosts. Even the slightest spark would instantly melt one's flesh and corrode one's bones. Once one was affected by the explosion, one would instantly turn into charcoal. Behind the mage was another knight, who had a heavy shield in his left hand and a heavy sword in his right, protecting his back. The 5 of them plunged into the enemy's formation at an astonishing speed and went straight for the prison carriage in the center. Their appearance was too sudden, and the explosive power of their attacks was too overbearing. In particular, the mage's attack covered a large area, and the explosion of each bursting fireball could cause damage to dozens of Ox Demons. In a fit of rage, he blasted open a path. The Ox Demon army fell into chaos. Without a doubt, the 5 of them were Han Yu who opened the path, Wang Yuan and Sima Xian on the left and right flanks, Lin Xian in the center, and Zhang Fangfang at the back. Just as the 5 of them appeared, a loud and clear dragon roar suddenly sounded. Then, a black dragon appeared out of nowhere and flew straight toward the Ox Demon army. In the air, the black dragon that was more than 10 meters long spat out a breath. With a sweep, hundreds of Ox Demons were corroded into water and disappeared completely. On the back of the black dragon sat a young lady. The young lady's body shone with a thick, distorted light. If one looked closely, they would see that the distorted light was turning into layers of ripples and merging into the black dragon's body. Heaven-defying demon dragon. If the charge of Han Yu and the others was not enough to disrupt the Ox Demon army's morale, they would only be a little confused. Then, as the heaven-defying demon dragon appeared and attacked the Ox Demon army, it instantly destroyed the Ox Demon army's morale. For a moment, the Ox Demon army didn't even know whether to fight or flee. Under such circumstances, the members of the Light of Dawn monster hunters charged straight toward the prison wagon. Of course, there were smart people in the Ox Demon army. Several especially tall ox demons guarding next to the prison wagon saw the enemies approaching at an alarming speed. One of the ox demons immediately roared, grabbed the iron cage of the prison wagon, and flipped onto the prison wagon. The enemies seemed to be targeting the two prisoners, and these humans were quite powerful. They had to be prepared to kill the prisoners before the humans attacked. A gray light flashed, and the ox demon who had just jumped onto the prison wagon was slashed diagonally from the left shoulder to the right waist. The two halves of the corpse fell off the wagon. A slim figure also appeared on the prison cart. A black dress and a black scythe. A cold, murderous intent surged. The huge scythe in her hand swept out, and the ox demon guarding the prison wagon was instantly beheaded. Although the overall strength of the ox demon army was not bad, there were no particularly outstanding powerhouses. Apart from the dragon rider demon god, Asmodeus, the strongest ox demon was only at the 6th or 7th grade. How could this kind of ox demon bring any trouble to Kair? In Long Houchen's plan, attracting Asmodeus was the first step, followed by his partner's attack. After all, with just Kair's strength, although she could get close to the prison wagon, it would be difficult to bring both of them out from the army. Yang Wenjiao and Duan had been captured for so many days, their physical condition could be imagined, and they could not withstand the turbulence. Since they were here to rescue them, they naturally had to ensure their safety first. Kair's mission was to ensure that Duan and Yang Wenjiao would not be harmed before everyone rushed to the prison wagon. While the other ox demons had not rushed over, the Grim Reaper's scythe swung continuously. The steel cage was like tofu in front of it, and was directly cut into pieces, but it did not harm Yang Wenjiao and Duani at all. The two of them had already fallen into a semi-conscious state, and without the support of the cage, they immediately collapsed on the prison wagon. Kair hurried forward and stuffed a pill given by Lin Xian into their mouths. She made them lie on their backs, and the pill naturally flowed into their bodies. The appearance of the heaven-defying demonic dragon was a great deterrent to the ox demon army, so much so that when Kair rescued Yang, Wenjiao, and Duan, not many ox demons attacked her. There was no doubt that the heaven-defying demonic dragon was Madol's incarnation. Although Channing used the spiritual furnace of time to cast the living soul gate, she still had the support of the soul saint garment, and her combat power was still there. The heaven-defying demonic dragon that Madol had incarnated was no longer a decoration like before. With the support of the huge spiritual power of the soul saint garment, not only did it not need to swallow magic crystals, it could also maintain the strength of a rank 9 magical beast for a period of time under the support of the soul saint garment. Flying through the air, they soon arrived at the location where Kair was. Kair grabbed one in each hand and jumped up, landing on Madol's back with Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi. The heaven-defying demonic dragon flapped its wings and flew up. At the same time, it spat out another breath, but this time it turned around and spat out. It helped Han Yu and the others to wipe out the enemies on their side. Han Yu and the others also took advantage of the situation to fly up with their spiritual wings and converge here. The ox demons were not a race that could fly. Plus, they were deterred by the heaven-defying demonic dragon, so their actions were very smooth, and they quickly converged in the air. The movement here naturally attracted the attention of the dragon rider demon god, Asmodeus. From the moment Han Yu and the others attacked, to the rescue of Kair and the heaven-defying demonic dragon soared into the sky. Only a minute had passed from beginning to end. Asmodeus was originally fighting to his heart's content with Long Houchen, and he was even a little unwilling to output more spiritual power, because he was not in a hurry to kill Long Houchen at all. In the process of fighting with Long Houchen with pure martial arts, he felt that he had benefited a lot. The perfect use of Long Houchen's skills gave him considerable inspiration. It was not until the aura of the heaven-defying demonic dragon appeared that he realized something was wrong. Luring the tiger away from the mountain, he was fooled. Asmodeus made the correct judgment in the first moment. He could no longer bother with Long Houchen. With a roar, the spear suddenly condensed in the air, and then a huge black flame burst out from the spear, turning into a huge fire pillar with a diameter of more than 5 meters, directly bombarding Long Houchen. With the effect of the saint's spiritual stove, he must kill Long Houchen before he could deal with the situation on the other side. The terrifying black flame gave people a feeling of stickiness, and in an instant, Long Houchen felt as if he had entered a world of darkness without light. That feeling of suffocation even made him feel the pain when he was suppressed by the death demon god Samakina. This attack was obviously prepared by Asmodeus, and it was a technique specifically aimed at Long Houchen. No matter how brilliant your martial arts were, under the absolute suppression of spiritual power, what could you do? This was a method of using strength to subdue 10. After launching this attack, Asmodeus almost turned around and flew towards the army. The appearance of the heaven-defying demonic dragon was also a huge shock to him. That was a member of the Demon Emperor's clan. Could it be that there was a heaven-defying demonic dragon that betrayed his majesty, the Demon Emperor? He had to find out. However, just when he thought that Long Houchen would be seriously injured, even if he didn't die under his accumulated power attack, he couldn't maintain the saint's spiritual stove. Behind him came Long Houchen's clear voice. "Where do you think you're going? Your opponent is me." Huh? The saint's spiritual stove's attraction ability didn't disappear, and Asmodeus was pulled by the aura and almost instantly turned around. He was shocked to see that the two huge black flames were flying into the distance, while Long Houchen was still in his previous position. However, the sword in his hand had changed. The unsealed aria of the Goddess of Light was an orange-red epic equipment, but at this moment, it had astonishingly turned into a 7-colored gold. Divine tools didn't have to be 7-colored, but 7-colored was definitely a divine tool. This point had already been proven by the Sun-Moon Divine Snail Shield. Long Houchen was still holding the heavy sword with both hands, staring at Asmodeus with a burning gaze. From the momentum of the black flames, it could be seen that the attack that Asmodeus thought was enough to devour the opponent in front of him was unexpectedly cut open by him. It didn't really hurt Long Houchen. The peculiar 7-colored golden light attracted the attention of the dragon rider fiend god Asmodeus. He was worthy of being one of the most proficient demon gods in battle. Just at this moment, Asmodeus immediately cast aside everything below and focused his whole body on Long Houchen's body. In the battle between him and Long Houchen, just now, Asmodeus also secretly admired Long Houchen's powerful sword intent and sword skills. At this moment, the weapon in Long Houchen's hand suddenly became a divine tool, and Asmodeus couldn't help but pay attention to it. A human knight who could almost cultivate sword skills and sword intent to the extreme. If he had such a divine sword, it wouldn't be as simple as adding wings to a tiger. He could really threaten Asmodeus. Asmodeus didn't regret at all that he didn't fight Long Houchen with all his strength. This battle brought him a lot of inspiration. He was completely sure that through this battle, his martial arts would definitely improve a lot. Demons were the same as humans. The closer the battle was, the more they could stimulate their potential. Looking at the divine sword in Long Houchen's hand, Asmodeus's eyes had already lit up. "Very good, you really have the qualifications to be my opponent. If I kill you today, I will personally bury you to show my respect," Asmodeus said coldly, pointing the spear in his right hand. The one who spoke was the head in the middle. For the demons, such words were already a considerable recognition of their opponent. Demons saw humans as part of their food, especially the corpses of human powerhouses. The demons would never let go of them. Asmodeus said this out of respect for Long Houchen. Long Houchen didn't say anything. At this moment, his eyes were completely fixed on the aria of the Goddess of Light in his hand. As a punishment knight, why didn't he use 2 divine swords at the same time? He was originally good at using 2 swords. If he used both swords at the same time, he would definitely be able to exert more power. However, he didn't do that because this aria of the Goddess of Light contained his follow-up move. Dragon Rider demon god Asmodeus was much stronger than him. Long Houchen was very clear that it was completely impossible for him to defeat his opponent. He couldn't even stop Asmodeus. However, he had his ways. Back then, when he was still very young, Long Xingwu once told him about the characteristics, and fighting methods of all the demon gods. Long Xingwu's evaluation of Asmodeus was very similar to his evaluation of Anan. He said that Berserk demon god Nan was an absolute martial arts fanatic. In Anan's heart, there was nothing more important than improving his own strength. Even if it was the demon emperor's order, he might not necessarily follow it completely. And his evaluation of Asmodeus was somewhat similar to his evaluation of Anan. Asmodeus was also very obsessed with improving his strength. But the difference between him and Anan was that while he was obsessed with improving his own strength, he was absolutely loyal to the demon emperor and was more rational than Nan. Perhaps because of this, in terms of personal strength, he still couldn't compare with Anan. In other words, Asmodeus's obsession with improving his own strength was divided into priorities, but Anan was completely different. It was precisely because he grasped this characteristic of Asmodeus's character that Long Houchen didn't increase his overall strength when fighting him, but instead relied on martial arts to contend against him. It must be known that this would bring enormous pressure to Long Houchen. Facing an opponent whose cultivation was far above his own, how could it be easy to rely on skills to deal with the opponent's mountain-like attack? However, without a doubt, Long Houchen succeeded. His sword skills and sword intent deeply attracted Asmodeus's attention. So much so that Asmodeus didn't go all out in the fight, but only exchanged pointers on skills. This created an excellent opportunity for his companions, until Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi were rescued. When Asmodeus launched that powerful attack, Long Houchen had already prepared for it. Everything was within his calculations. Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi were rescued, so Asmodeus naturally wouldn't leave the matter at that. And under the effect of the saint's spiritual stove, Asmodeus had to kill him. Therefore, under the condition of preparation, although it was still difficult to deal with, Long Houchen was still able to deal with it in the end. When Asmodeus was fighting with Long Houchen before, he had always overlooked one thing, and that was Yiting, who appeared together with Long Houchen and used the saint's spiritual stove on him. After Yiting appeared, she had always been behind Long Houchen and had never participated in the fight. Not even a single magic was used. In addition to being afraid of causing Asmodeus to go all out in an attack, the other most important reason was that she was waiting for Long Houchen's command, waiting for the command to fuse with the aria of the Goddess of Light. This was the true backup plan that Long Houchen had left for himself. After the constant infiltration of the meteorite, whether it was the aria of the Goddess of Light, Blue Rain, or Hibiscus of Light, their quality had been greatly improved. Moreover, because they were directly nourished by Yiting through the saint's spiritual stove, the degree of compatibility between Yiting and them had also become higher and higher. At that time, when Yiting had fused with Blue Rain and Hibiscus of Light as a sword spirit for the first time, it had directly caused it to be damaged. But now it obviously wouldn't. The aria of the Goddess of Light was more suitable for Long Houchen's sword intent, and Yiting could only fuse with one divine sword. Therefore, he had always only used the aria of the Goddess of Light. When Asmodeus attacked with all his strength, Yiting instantly fused with the divine sword, turning it into a real divine weapon. The aria of the Goddess of Light, which was full of sword spirit, seemed to have really been resurrected. It was as if the sword god of light, Yi Wuxiang, had returned. Just now, Long Houchen had used it to launch the Azura Chop and launched Asmodeus's fatal blow. Seeing that Long Houchen didn't respond to his words, Asmodeus's expression became more and more dignified. Originally holding the spear with one hand, he used both hands instead. The 3 heads and 6 eyes simultaneously emitted a deep black color. The long spear in his hand slowly pointed forward. The black halo at the tip of the spear was swallowing, but there was no longer any flame. The spear in his hand had completely turned as black as ink. The tip of the spear was pointed at Long Houchen, and the terrifying battle intent mixed with the incomparably sharp killing intent caused the space between the two to distort. Long Houchin was still staring at the divine sword in his hand, and lightly said, Asmodeus, remember to tell the demon emperor that I will wait for him among the demons. Either the demons die, or I die. I am the Long Houchin that you have been looking for. Huh? Asmodeus, who was originally fully focused, was shocked when he heard this. In the next instant, Long Houchin's body suddenly emitted a layer of strange purple-gold color. This layer of purple-gold color instantly integrated into the aura of the goddess of light. Long Houchin's body moved along with the sword, and he smoothly stabbed the sword toward him. When the sword stabbed out, it was as if a purple-gold lightning suddenly flashed in the sky, and the whole sky darkened. This was Long Houchin's real attack, a sword that could seize the fortune of heaven and earth. When this sword stabbed out, his entire mind had completely integrated with the sword. The aura of the goddess of light, which had a sword spirit, seemed to really let out a sigh when the purple-gold lightning swept out. That sigh gave people a carefree feeling. Yes, at this moment, the divine sword of the sword god of light, Yi Wuxiang, finally returned. This sword also finally had the style of his in the past. There was no sound of collision. When the human and the demon passed by each other, the Star King had already reappeared in the sky, carrying Long Houchin and hurrying into the distance. What was strange was that the dragon rider demon god, Asmodeus, didn't chase after him. Instead, he blankly floated in the air. The long spear in his hand maintained a forward-stabbing motion. However, what was shocking was that the black on his 5-meter-long flag spear was rapidly fading away. One could clearly see that the black had spread from the tip of the spear all the way to his palm. There was a deep, bloody groove on the flag spear. Not only that, on Asmodeus's armor that was transformed from the infernal dragon, there was also a straight, deep mark from the helmet to the abdomen. Asmodeus blocked the stab of Long Houchin's sword. However, he couldn't block the sword intent contained in this sword, the real sword intent. It seemed to be a power that was completely condensed from spiritual power. No matter how strong his cultivation was, he couldn't block it. At this moment, Asmodeus was deeply shocked by that sword. He was very clear that if his cultivation was the same as Long Houchin's, then that sword would have already taken his life. For the first time, Asmodeus felt that he was actually so weak in terms of martial arts. Such a weak opponent was able to injure him with his sword intent. He always felt that even if he challenged the top 12 demon gods, he might not necessarily lose. However, now he truly understood that there was still a huge gap between him and a stronger opponent. The spear slowly retracted, and Asmodeus's 3 heads moved slightly. The bull head and the ram head looked at the human head in the center at the same time. The human head took a deep breath and muttered, Long Houchin, boss, should we chase after him? If we use the demon god pillars, that kid still won't be our match, the bull head said in a deep voice. The human head shook and said, no. Did you forget His Majesty's orders? If we encounter a human knight called Long Houchin, or a human knight riding a multi-headed demon beast, don't push him too far. Let him go. His Majesty naturally has a way to deal with him. The ram head closed his eyes. Boss, I think we should go into seclusion for a while. When we reach the Exorcist Mountain Passes camp, we shouldn't participate in the battle for the time being. The human head slightly nodded and said, I also think so. I seem to have seen another path. I hope there will be another chance to fight with that human in the future. While speaking, Asmodeus put away his spear and stood up. The armor on his body quickly disintegrated, and he once again changed into the appearance of an infernal dragon. However, there was a deep scar on the infernal dragon's body. Asmodeus didn't know that the moment Long Houchin rode on the Star King, he had already spat out a mouthful of blood on the Golden Foundation battle armor's mask. The battle between him and Asmodeus looked simple and unadorned, but in fact, he had consumed a lot of mental energy. The pressure brought by his opponent was really too strong. Long Houchin had always been vigilant, even at this moment. If Asmodeus activated the power of the demon god pillars or entered the demon god transformation state, then he would have no other choice. He had to immediately catch up to his companions and activate the Tower of Eternity's transfer. Fortunately, he didn't know if Asmodeus was immersed in his own sword and didn't chase after him. The Star King flew at full speed and quickly swept past the demon army below. After meeting up with his companions, they flew into the distance. Riding on the back of the infernal dragon, Asmodeus looked at the distant Longhouchen, and his 3 heads and 6 eyes revealed a hint of contemplation. That instant of sword light was deeply imprinted in his mind, and a feeling of enlightenment gradually appeared in his heart. Longhouchen didn't know that it was precisely because of his battle with Asmodeus that this dragon rider demon god's ranking rose greatly, and he directly entered the top 24 of the 72 demon god pillars. Chapter 2:13. Suppressing the surging chi and blood in his body, Longhouchen didn't dare to relax and released his mental power. After confirming that Asmodeus didn't chase after him, he finally let out a sigh of relief. At this time, the Star King's role was revealed. Layers of golden halos surged up and enveloped Longhouchen's body. Bursts of warmth rose, replenishing Longhouchen's spiritual power while gently healing his internal injuries. However, even so, the injuries that Longhouchen suffered this time couldn't be healed in a short time. In order to stall Asmodeus, he completely attacked his opponent and gave up on defense. Although he used his skills to dissolve his opponent's attack as much as possible, Asmodeus's strength was tyrannical. Every simple contact would bring great shock to Longhouchen. Although the golden foundation armor could alleviate some of the shock, after such a long battle, they had collided hundreds and thousands of times, and Longhouchen had been activating his sword intent with all his strength. Although his body was strong, his meridians had suffered serious injuries. Don't forget, no matter what, Longhouchen was only a rank 8, and his opponent was a powerful rank 9, and a rank 2, rank 9 powerhouse at that. If it was someone else, even if they had the same skills as him, after such a long collision, they would have been shattered by the opponent's powerful spiritual power. Because of how Longhouchen's external spiritual power was far superior to ordinary people, so he was able to withstand the attack. He even injured his opponent and gave Asmodeus a great shock. After flying for hundreds of miles, everyone landed. Longhouchen directly crawled on the back of the Star King, gasping for breath. Kai flashed to Longhouchen's side and helped him down from the back of the Star King. Hanyu came to Longhouchen's side without hesitation and directly activated the spiritual stove of Light's blessing. Although the blessing of Light did not have a healing effect, it could at least help Longhouchen recover his spiritual power quickly. Lin Xin took out a pill and helped Longhouchen remove his bloodstained mask before stuffing the pill into his mouth. Even Qining came over, ignoring Duan, Yi, and Yang Wenjiao. They formed a circle around Longhouchen. Looking at Longhouchen's pale face, Qining tears fell. Boss, Longhouchen forced a smile. Silly girl, why are you crying? Aren't I fine now? How are Yang Wenjiao and Duani? Hanyu said, I have treated them with healing magic. With Lin Xion's pill, their lives are not in danger. However, their injuries were very serious, and they needed some time to recuperate before they could recover. Fortunately, there are no missing limbs. Longhouchen said, we finally saved them. We have now entered the territory of the demons and may encounter the demons' army at any time. We can't stay here for long. Wait for me to recover. Then I will go back to the Tower of Eternity to rest. Yes, everyone answered. Kair helped Longhouchen sit down. Although she didn't say anything, the heartache in her beautiful eyes moved Longhouchen even more. Touching her little hand, Longhouchen suppressed the pain in his body. He closed his eyes with a smile and urged the spiritual power in his body to repair his damaged meridians. Under the effect of the Light's blessing spiritual stove, his spiritual power recovered very quickly. Even the spiritual power stored in the adamantine base armor was recovering quickly. The others consciously formed a circle, and Channing, I want to take care of Yang Wenjiao and Duani. Zhang Fangfang was on guard. The others stayed by Longhouchen's side. After half an hour, Longhouchen's face finally had a trace of color. He slowly opened his eyes and spat out another mouthful of extravasated blood. His spirit was much better. After summoning his companions to his side, he immediately launched the teleportation and returned to the Tower of Eternity. For the next whole day, Long Houchen was in a state of healing. His injuries were more serious than his companions had imagined. In order not to affect his companions' rescue, Long Houchen cut off the soul chain when he was fighting the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus. All the injuries were borne by himself. Not only were his meridians damaged, even his internal organs were somewhat displaced. The others also rested. Under everyone's careful care, Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi's condition was also a lot better. Han Yu cast healing magic on them many times. Coupled with the effect of elixirs, their physical conditions were basically stable. Yang Wenjiao slowly opened his eyes. He only felt that his body was very heavy, and he couldn't use any strength. Only the warmth in his chest and abdomen made him feel that he was still alive. Since the team was defeated by the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus, he was seriously injured, and his life had been in a flash. It had been many days since he lost consciousness. Although he was awake at this time, his mind was still a little confused. "You're awake." Chuning-Er's surprised voice came. Yang Wenjiao's pupils finally focused a little, and he looked at Chuning-Er with blurred eyes. When he saw her in a white dress, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. His lips hummed a bit, but he couldn't speak. Chuning-Er hurriedly took the water, carefully lifted his upper body with one hand, and brought the water bag to his lips with the other hand, feeding him a mouthful. When the water entered his throat, Yang Wenjiao's spirit was slightly shaken. His voice was very hoarse, and it was a world of difference from the original deep and rich voice. "It's me, Big Brother Wenjiao. Are you feeling better? Those demons bastards, they actually tortured you like this." At this point, Chuning-Er's eyes couldn't help but turn red again. Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi's injuries were too serious. On Yang Wenjiao's body, there were more than a dozen fractures, and even the tendons of his hands and feet were torn. There were also several puncture wounds on his body. If it weren't for his excellent physical fitness, and the fact that the demons didn't intend to let them die like this, I'm afraid he would have already gone to see the goddess of light. I'm already dead? It's so good to be able to see you when I die. I heard that you have been in seclusion. If it wasn't for this holy war, I would have gone to see you long ago. Unfortunately, there's no chance anymore. I've never understood why after you grew up your attitude toward me changed so much. If I did something wrong, don't care about me, okay? This way I can go with peace of mind. It's just, I really can't bear to part with you, Yang Wenjiao seemed to have grasped the last opportunity and continued to say a bunch of words with difficulty. In the end, the energy that he had recovered with great difficulty was exhausted, and he once again fell into a coma. "I won't care about you, don't faint." Under anxiety, Chuning-Er couldn't help but cry again. Hey, don't cry. You won't die," Lin Xin said from the side. Chuning-Er looked at him fiercely. "What? There's medicine, bro. Are you provoking me?" Lin Xin chuckled and said, "How many times have we checked him? As long as there's enough time, he'll definitely recover. You're worrying too much. I suspect that what he said just now was to win your sympathy. Bullsh *T. He's already injured to this extent. How would he do it on purpose? Do you have any humanity?" Chuning-Er roared with a face full of anger. All right. You win. Don't disturb everyone. He didn't do it on purpose. Women in love are really scary." Lin Xin immediately raised his hands in surrender, but his face was still smiling. Chuning-Er snorted and said, "Just you wait. When I see big sister Lin Xin, I'll tell you." Once she thought that Yang Wenjiao would be fine, the tears in her eyes naturally receded, but she still hugged his upper body, unwilling to let go. Her eyes couldn't help but become gentle as she recalled all the things that happened when they were young. At this moment, Long Houchen, who was cultivating at the side, opened his eyes. Kai-Er, who was guarding by his side, immediately looked at him and asked with concern, "How are you?" Long Houchen smiled and said, "Don't worry. He's basically fine. I've lost some of my vitality, but I'll be fine after a while. With his son of light constitution, no light healing magic could compare to the self-healing effect of the pure light elements in his body. After a day and a night, his internal organs had returned to their original positions, and his meridians had been repaired. His body was recovering at an astonishing speed. Kai sat down next to Long Houchin and snuggled up to him, hugging his arm, and said softly, "Long Houchin, do you know when I fell in love with you after I lost my memory?" Long Houchin shook his head and used his other hand to rub her head. Kai said softly, "It was when the Holy War had just begun, when we were about to be separated. It was when you cooked for me every day, made soup for me, and guarded me every day. I can never forget the way you looked at me every day. After I lost my memory, my heart was always indecisive, but it was during that time that you made my heart settle down again. If one day the demons no longer threaten the alliance, I just want to live with you in a beautiful place with plants everywhere, a few small wooden huts, and watch you cook for me, and I take care of our children. How wonderful that would be." Long Houchin's heart was almost pulled by Kai's words. He pulled his arm out of her embrace, and his eyes revealed a look of longing. That day will definitely come. If everyone is willing, we can all live in one place and form a small village. I don't need you to do anything. Just let me see you all the time. We can plant all kinds of vegetables in front of the wooden huts and raise some livestock. I will make soup and cook for you and the children every day. When night comes, we will bring the children to the rooftop to look at the stars. Without the darkness brought by the demons, the sky will definitely be blue, very blue." Nestled in Long Houchin's arms, Kai closed her eyes. At this moment, her beautiful face was full of happiness. That day will definitely come. Kai repeated Long Houchin's words and also affirmed her own feelings. Although their voices were not loud, their companions around them could hear them clearly. Their gazes simultaneously looked at Long Houchin and Kai, and for a moment, they couldn't help but have mixed feelings. Even the strong Wang Yuanyuan couldn't help but have tears in her eyes. Will this day really come? The demons were so powerful, and as members of the Legend Monster Hunters, could they finally have such a beautiful ending? Perhaps in the next great battle with the demons, they might not even be able to survive. For a moment, everyone felt something choking in their throats, but their hearts simultaneously produced the same yearning. In order for more humans to enjoy this happiness, they must fight against the demons to the end. The conviction in their hearts became even firmer. Patting Kai's back, Long Houchin helped her sit up straight, and he himself stood up. He wanted to embrace Kai like this and immerse himself in this happiness. But he couldn't. He had too many things to do. Looking at his companions, he said, "It's about time. I will go investigate the demon's movements. As long as we can confirm that the Demon Emperor has indeed brought people to the Exorcist Mountain Pass, we will immediately set off into the interior of the demons and let the Demon Emperor know our approximate whereabouts, so as to resolve the danger of the Exorcist Mountain Pass." Kurt immediately opened her eyes and stood up. "I'll go. I can become invisible. It will be more convenient to investigate." Long Houchin shook his head, saying, "That won't do. Under the Demon Emperor's level of spiritual force investigation, it will be very difficult for your invisibility effect to be effective. Let me go. Once I discover something wrong, I can immediately teleport back. I will definitely be careful." Kai still wanted to say something, but Long Houchin pressed down on her shoulder. He signaled everyone to continue cultivating and immediately activated the teleportation. With a flash of golden light, Long Houchin appeared at the place where they were teleported. The surroundings were still as empty as before. After pondering for a moment, Long Houchin removed the gold foundation battle armor from his body and put on a large cloak. He didn't fly and just ran towards the direction of the demon camp. He did this to reduce the light aura emitted from his body as much as possible. Whether it was the gold foundation battle armor or his spiritual wings, the light element aura was too rich. Just as he ran for less than a kilometer, suddenly, a spiritual pressure like the pressure of MT Tai swept over from the side. The instant Long Houchen was enveloped by this spiritual pressure. He felt as if all the blood in his body was about to solidify. Purple gold light burst out from his body. This was the amplification after Hao Yue evolved his sixth head. In a sense, his strength was already mixed with Hao Yue's bloodline power. Without the slightest hesitation, Long Houchen instantly activated the Tower of Eternity. With a flash of golden light, he once again returned inside the Tower of Eternity. But his complexion was pale. It had only been a few minutes since Long Houchen left and returned. Everyone was shocked to see Long Houchen suddenly return. "It's the Demon Emperor," Long Houchen said without hesitation. "I sensed his spiritual detection. There's no mistake, it's definitely him. I recognize his spiritual aura. What a powerful spiritual force. If he agreed to release his spiritual detection in the Exorcist Mountain Pass, then his strength is really too terrifying. We are at least 600 or 700 kilometers away from there. But his spiritual energy feels like it's just within reach." That feeling of being unable to resist was really too frightening. Long Houchen only felt as if he had just been ruthlessly suppressed by a mountain. Even now, his brain was still a little dizzy. Seeing his pale complexion, everyone couldn't help but be overwhelmed with shock. Long Houchen, who could already kill low-level demon gods, was actually able to use his spiritual detection from hundreds of kilometers away. What kind of strength did the Demon Emperor have? Although they had a very high evaluation of the Demon Emperor, they had after all not fought with the number one demons face to face. At this moment, they couldn't help but look at each other, their hearts filled with shock. "Boss, what should we do next?" Sima Xian asked. Long Houchen had already calmed down and said in a low voice, "We must enter deep into the demons without delay. Because I was unprepared just now, I didn't think that the Demon Emperor's spiritual detection could reach such a distance, so I didn't use my spiritual force to protect myself. Even if he could sense my existence from such a distance, he wouldn't be able to confirm my identity in such a short period of time. You are all in the Tower of Eternity, and with me as the base to teleport, I can teleport everyone to wherever I go. No matter how powerful the Demon Emperor is, his spiritual detection also has a range. I immediately set off, using my spiritual force to protect myself as I approach the interior of the demons with all my strength. Let's enter the interior of the demons first. As long as we go through a battle, we can let the Demon Emperor know that we've already entered deep into the demons and lure him back to the demons. Actually, the best method would be for them to stay in the Tower of Eternity and cultivate. The consumption of the Demon Emperor's spiritual detection to use such a large range definitely wouldn't be small. With 10 days to half a month's time, he naturally wouldn't be able to use it all the time. It would be the safest to move when the time came. But that wouldn't do. What if the Demon Emperor couldn't find them and vented his anger on the Exorcist Mountain Pass? Let alone the Assassin Temple. Even with the Knights Templars, they might not be able to block the Demon Emperor's attack. The Demon Emperor's gaze was on Long Houchen and Hao Yue. Only if they appeared in the interior of the demons would they be able to lure the Demon Emperor back. "Boss, won't this be too dangerous?" Chening said worriedly. Long Houchen replied, "It's fine. Even if the Demon Emperor confirms my identity, as long as I don't fight with him, I won't be in too much danger when I teleport back immediately. I'm alone now, but I can instantly communicate with the Tower of Eternity and teleport back. You can rest assured and cultivate here. I'll be fine. For the Alliance, I'll be extremely careful." No one tried to persuade him anymore. Long Houchen had always been reliable and rarely did things that he wasn't confident in. He had already used countless missions to prove this point. Although everyone was worried about his safety, they had absolute trust in him. Golden light flashed again, and Long Houchen teleported out once again. This time, during the teleportation process, he fully activated his mental power to protect his body. As soon as he returned to the Holy Demon Continent, he immediately sprinted in the opposite direction and headed towards the interior of the demons. The Demon Emperor's spiritual detection was still active. In terms of spiritual power, Long Houchen wasn't a match for the Demon Emperor, but he used all his spiritual power to protect his body. At such a distance, the Demon Emperor's perception of him wouldn't be too strong. Long Houchen sprinted at full speed while sensing the strength of the Demon Emperor's spiritual detection. Very soon, he understood why the Demon God Emperor could rely on his spiritual energy to scout more than 700 kilometers like a miracle. The Demon Emperor's spiritual detection wasn't omnidirectional. Instead, it was like a beam of light that shone in one direction before sweeping horizontally. This way, his spiritual power could be concentrated in one direction, and the range of his detection was naturally much larger. However, even so, the Demon Emperor's terror still sent a chill down Long Houchen's spine. His confidence in defeating the Demon Emperor in the future was slightly shaken. Over the past few years, Long Houchen's abilities had been growing rapidly. However, at this moment, he was shocked to discover that the gap between him and the Demon Emperor was still like the gap between heaven and earth. No wonder his grandfather would evaluate him like that. Long Tianyin had once told Long Houchen that the current Demon Emperor was the most powerful demons in the 6,000 years that they had been in the Holy Demon Continent. It was very likely that he had already broken through 1,000,000 spiritual energy points and reached the peak of the 9th stage. He might even have entered the legendary 10th stage. What was 10th stage? 10th stage was God. Furthermore, the demons originally didn't belong to this world, so they weren't bound by this world's gods. As for what exactly that level was, there were no records in the records of the Temple League because no human had ever reached that level. There was still a long way to go if he wanted to defeat the Demon Emperor. Long Houchen thought to himself as he sped into the distance. Just as he had predicted, although the Demon Emperor's spiritual detection would land on his body from time to time, it would be distorted and slid away by the extremely concentrated spiritual power on the surface of his body. This feeling was like Long Houchen was a rock that had been swept by spiritual detection. The Demon Emperor's spiritual detection hadn't increased in strength, which meant that he probably hadn't discovered Long Houchen's existence. Even so, Long Houchen didn't dare to relax his vigilance. He was still fully focused on sensing the changes in his surroundings. If there was even the slightest movement, he would immediately teleport back to the Tower of Eternity. Outside the Exorcist Mountain Pass Demon Camp, in a huge dark purple tent that had just been built, the Demon Emperor sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, his hands making a strange gesture in front of him. This huge tent was at least 500 square meters and was extremely spacious. However, there were only 2 powerful demons in the entire tent, the Demon Emperor and the Moon Demon behind him. The Moon Demon Agars stood quietly behind the Demon Emperor, his eyes flickering as he scanned his surroundings from time to time. The situation of human demon hunt squads ambushing the Demon God Emperor wasn't something that happened once or twice. Although compared to the Demon God Emperor, the strength of those humans wasn't enough to be feared. They always had an endless number of assassination methods. Therefore, even the Demon Emperor had to be careful. The terrifying spiritual power that the Demon Emperor emitted first rushed through the tent into the sky, and then spread to the surroundings. Otherwise, if the demons in this demon camp were swept by his terrifying spiritual power, I'm afraid that each and every one of them would go limp on the ground and not dare to move. As the second demon god of the demons, Agar's strength was the closest to the Demon Emperor among the demons. But it was also because of this that he understood the terror of the Demon Emperor's strength. The Demon Emperor's strength had long since surpassed the scope of demons and was at the level of gods. His terrifying spiritual power made even Agar's tremble. He knew very well that although he was the second demon god of the demons, even if he joined forces with the star demon Vashuk, the necromancer demon god Samakina, and the hell demon god Marbus, they still wouldn't be a match for the Demon Emperor. Not to mention that humans didn't know how strong the Demon Emperor was. Even these demon gods didn't know where the limit of the Demon Emperor was. As the most powerful Demon Emperor in the history of the demons, no one knew the true thoughts in Feng Xiu's heart. The terrifying spiritual power that soared to the sky slowly converged, and the Demon Emperor slowly opened his eyes. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Your Majesty, did you find anything?" Agar's asked immediately when he saw his expression. Feng Xiu smiled indifferently and said with a slight rebuke, "How many times have I told you? No matter who I am in front of, call me Big Brother. Don't call me Your Majesty. We are brothers." Agar smiled and said, "Etiquette cannot be abolished. As a second demon god, I have to play an exemplary role. Big Brother's dignity will always be supreme among the demons." Feng Xiu smiled and shook his head. You do as you please." Agar saw that Feng Xiu was in a good mood and said, "Big Brother, did you find anything?" Feng Xiu nodded slightly and said, "That little guy is really cunning. He only appeared for a moment and then disappeared. It should be because of the teleportation treasure that Abao mentioned. I also can't capture his spatial location. I'm afraid it's a divine artifact, level teleportation treasure." Agar's nodded and said, "Sure enough, it's the same as what third brother predicted. It seems that catching him is really not an easy matter. His strength isn't strong, but he's cunning enough." Demon Emperor Feng Xiu's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment and frustration. "It's really a pity." "Pity?" Agar's looked at Feng Xiu with some doubt. "Big Brother, why do I always feel that you don't want to kill this human?" Feng Xiu shook his head with some loneliness in his eyes. "So what if I don't want to kill him? I still have to kill him all the same. Compared to my race's long history, what does one person count as? Even if this person is a Bao, he still has to die all the same." Speaking up to here, his eyebrows suddenly jumped, and a trace of a sneer appeared on his handsome face. "These human old farts really think highly of me. There are at least 3 monster hunters lying in ambush in the surroundings. All of them have individual strength exceeding 200,000 spiritual energy points. Are they afraid that I will make a move on the Exorcist Mountain Pass? How would they know that in my eyes? What is the Exorcist Mountain Pass?" A cold light flashed in Agar's eyes. "Big Brother, do you want me to go teach them a lesson?" Feng Xiu shook his head and said, "No need. These guys are very cunning. They won't easily make a move against us until the last moment. I also don't feel like paying attention to them. Wait until I'm done with the matter in front of me, and after obtaining the god's position, I'll naturally purge them. Do you know why I've never dealt with them? Because I want to make the humans feel at ease, let them think that I'm really being watched by their people. This balance can't be easily destroyed, otherwise it won't be good for us if the humans fight to the death." Agar's slightly nodded and said, "This time's Holy War's goal has basically been achieved. Big Brother, when will we end? These 2 years, our losses are also very big. However, the population base has basically been adjusted." Feng Xiu said, "What's the situation in the east?" After Andamari's death, the snake demons were like a group of dragons without a leader, and the demon emperor specially dispatched a demon god to oversee it. As the demon's largest source of food supply, the Eastern Sea was extremely important. Agar said, "The current situation is still good. You ordered us to speed up the fishing of marine life, and the food provided this year is about 30% more than last year. In addition, the Holy War has sharply reduced our race's population. It won't be a big problem for the time being. In all these years, you have been encouraging reclamation and planting. Those humans are also quite obedient, and the food production is increasing every year." Feng Xiu nodded and said, "That's good. Continue to grasp the matter of craftsmen in the Temple League. After the Holy War is over, this will be our most important matter in the future. Also, further encourage human reproduction. Only when the number of humans domesticated by our race reaches a certain level can we go and destroy the Temple League. I hope to see the continent unified in my lifetime." Agar smiled and said, "Long live Big Brother, you're still young." Feng Xiu said indifferently, "I'm not young anymore. However, if I can stabilize my position as a god, it's not impossible for me to rule forever. After I kill that Long Houchin, this holy war can also end. The humans have suffered great losses this time, and this should be enough to intimidate them." Yes, Long Houchin had already been running wildly in the wilderness for 2 days and 2 nights. In order to conceal his pure light element, he could only rely on his legs. After running wildly for a day, he could no longer sense the demon emperor's spiritual detection. Evidently, he had already left the range of the demon emperor's spiritual detection. Even so, he didn't dare to stop at all. To them, the most important thing was still to come. He had to attract the demon emperor's attention as quickly as possible. In order to widen the distance between him and the demon emperor, Long Houchen had been rushing southeast. In 2 days, he had already passed through a province of the demons and reached the Grand Azura province in the north-central region of the demons. Among the 24 provinces of the demons, the central province wasn't located in the center of the demons. The Temple League occupied the northwestern corner of the continent, while the demons occupied the other vast regions. From the perspective of the continent as a whole, the central province was actually located in the south-central region of the continent. The closest place to the central province of the demons was the Warrior Temple's southeast stronghold, while the Exorcist Mountain Pass was very far away. However, the demons' territory was extremely vast, and Long Houchen was like a fish in water when he entered the demons' territory alone. Under such circumstances, it would be very difficult for the demon emperor to find him again. These 2 days of Long Houchen's running hadn't been in vain. As he ran, his blood surged, and he could circulate his internal spiritual power. His internal injuries were more or less healed. Entering the Grand Azura province could be considered as entering the demon's territory, and he could completely relax. Next, he had to make some noise to let the demon emperor know. He took out the map that Yi had given him from the Eternal Melody and unfurled it. This extremely detailed map didn't just record the terrain and cities. It even recorded the situation of the demon's territory. Of course, the current situation would probably change after considering the Holy War. The Grand Azura province's location was convenient, and its capital, Garo City, was located on the main road. According to the map, there was a demon god station here. It was the leopard demon god Ozzy, ranked 57th among the 72 demon god pillars. The commander, the leopard demons, was stationed in the Garo province. The leopard demons weren't considered the main combat race among the demons because there were fewer of them. However, they also had their own characteristics. Although they weren't as tough as the bear demon and the bull demons in battle, they were extremely fast, good at sneak attacks, and had amazing attack power. They were a race that emphasized both speed and attack. In terms of overall numbers, they were about the same as the Jacques demons, but because they had the bloodline of the demon god, they surpassed the Jacques demons in terms of strength and status. This was the leopard demons. Long Houchen had locked on his target, but he didn't know if this leopard demon god Ozzy, who was ranked 57th, was in Garo City, whether he was there or not. Long Houchen had decided to use this raid to tell the demon emperor that he had penetrated deep into the demon's territory, activating the Eternal Melody. The next moment, Long Houchen had already returned to the Tower of Eternity. Everyone from the Glimmer of Dawn monster hunters was cultivating where they were, and Long Houchen's return immediately woke them up from their cultivation. "Houchen, how is it?" Kai stepped forward and asked, and the others also gathered around. Only Yang Wenjiao and Duan, who were still lying on the ground, but they were both conscious now. After 2 days of recuperation, at least they wouldn't fall unconscious so easily. Long Houchen said, "I've penetrated deep into the demon's territory and have now entered the territory of the Galwa province. Everyone, get ready. Our teleportation location is in the north of the Galwa province, about 400 miles from its capital, Garo City. Garo City is our first target. We'll set off in 4 hours." Although he had finished healing after 2 days of continuous travel, his spirit was also quite tired. After all, he had always been in a state of tension, and he needed to rest and adjust before moving again. Everyone nodded. Seeing that Long Houchen had returned safely proved that they had completely gotten rid of the Demon Emperor. Once again penetrating deep into the demon's territory and about to launch an attack, how could they not be excited? Each of them couldn't help but rub their palms together. Long Houchen walked to Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi and squatted down. "Brother Yang, Brother Duan, how are your injuries? Are you feeling better?" Seeing Long Haochen, Yang Wenjiao and Duan couldn't help but have mixed feelings. When they were defeated by the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus, they never thought that they would have a chance to survive. They didn't expect that they would be saved by their biggest competitor in the Knights Templars. Back then, when everyone had just taken the Demon Hunter assessment, Long Haochen's cultivation was not as good as theirs. Time flew, and although they hadn't seen Long Haochen for a long time, they were very clear about Long Haochen's achievements. He was the first person in human history to shatter a demon god pillar and cause the Demon Emperor to launch a holy war against the entire Temple League, and the Alliance supported him. He killed a demon god. Every single one of them was so shocking, and they were all peaks that they couldn't surpass. Yang Wenjiao and Duan were both extremely talented knights. They were geniuses in their youth, and if they were placed in the past, they would definitely be the most important training targets for the Knights Templars. But they were born in the same era as Long Haochen. This meant that they could only serve as a foil to the Son of Light. Long Haochen, Chapter 214. Long Haochen. Yang Wenjiao's voice was choked with sobs as he uttered those two words. He was speechless for a moment. Overwhelmed with mixed feelings, he could not help but lower his head slightly, unwilling to look at Long Haochen's handsome and perfect face. Yang Wenjiao, Han Yu, and Long Haochen were all high-ranking disciples of the Knights Templars. Long Haochen had lived with his mother since he was young, so his fate was naturally very different from the others. Yang Wenjiao and Han Yu were somewhat similar, and that was their pride. The Knight Temple was the head of the 6 great temples, and their own families and talents had nurtured a pride that seeped into their very bones from a young age. That was why Yang Wenjiao had unintentionally offended Chuning, and because of this pride, Han Yu had suffered a crushing defeat to Long Haochen in the preliminary stage of the Monster Hunter's trials. Both of them had the same pride, but the difference was that Han Yu's performance was more obvious, so he had suffered the consequences of his pride earlier. Yang Wenjiao was much calmer than Han Yu. As the direct grandson of the leader of the Temple League, it was not an exaggeration to say that he was the first prince of the Temple League. However, he had never used his status to oppress others. Instead, he had put in more effort than others, all for the sake of one day continuing his grandfather's glory. If Long Haochen had not appeared out of nowhere, as long as he could continue to live and grow smoothly, there was a high chance that he would become the heir of the Knights Templars. It was also because of the enormous pressure that Long Haochen brought him that he worked even harder. However, Long Haochen's talent far surpassed his, and Long Haochen had put in even more effort than him. Therefore, he could only watch the gap between him and Long Haochen widen. This feeling had been suppressed in Yang Wenjiao's heart for a long time, causing him to often be in a state of emotional instability. This time, he and Duan Yi's 2 teams of monster hunters acted together, but they suffered a devastating blow from the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus. This was a heavy blow to Yang Wenjiao. When he was captured by Asmodeus, he tried to commit suicide, but was stopped by Asmodeus. At that time, Yang Wenjiao knew that he was being played. Regardless of whether it was his fault that the monster hunters were annihilated, as the team leader, he was responsible. Even if he survived, he knew that he would never be able to reach the top ranks of Knights Templars. How could he not be disheartened? If it weren't for Chuning taking care of him for the past 2 days, his mood would have been even worse. It was Chuning's forgiveness that gave him the courage to continue living. But now that he saw Long Haochen, all sorts of emotions interweaved in his heart, and his mind was immediately greatly shaken. Thank you, Long Haochen. I will always remember your kindness for saving my life. Yang Wenjiao adjusted his emotions and said sincerely. At this moment, he had completely lost the heart to compare himself with Long Haochen. He had already learned from Chuning that Long Haochen was the acting Holy Knight leader. Rank 8. He's actually already rank 8? Yang Wenjiao's gratitude came from the bottom of his heart. Although he was afraid that he would never be able to surpass Long Haochen, this time Long Haochen not only saved his life, but also allowed him to reunite with Chuning and obtain Chuning's forgiveness. Long Haochen smiled and said, "You should thank Inger. Ever since she got the news that you were captured, she has been restless. We just happened to be there at the right time." Yang Wenjiao sighed. It was me. I was the one who buried the lives of my companions. If it wasn't for my decision, there wouldn't have been that operation. I don't have the face to see my grandfather, and I don't have the face to return to the Monster Hunter's mission tower. Haochin, when my injuries are better, I want to leave this place. My life, I'll leave it in the hands of the demons. What nonsense are you talking about? Chun Inger said angrily. Is your life that cheap? These 2 days I've talked until my lips are broken, but you're still so stubborn, so stubborn. What do you want me to say to you? Go to hell, go to hell. As she said that, Chun Inger turned around and ran, throwing herself into the arms of Wang Yuan, who was not far away, and burst into tears. Looking at her, Yang Wenjiao's eyes dimmed, but he didn't call out to her, only remaining silent. Long Haochin frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Brother Yang, I know that this matter is a big blow to you. But have you ever thought that your life doesn't just belong to you? Why do we put in so much effort to save you and Brother Duan? It's not to send you to your death again. You're the best of the younger generation of Knights Templars, and you have unlimited potential in the future. Don't tell me that just because of one setback, you're unable to recover. Are you worthy of Grandfather Yang? Are you worthy of Inga? If you want to die, I won't stop you, but if you die like this, then you're a complete coward. I'm not a coward, Yang Wenjiao roared. Because he was too agitated, his injuries were affected, and he couldn't help but pale from the pain. Listening to Long Haochin's angry roar, Chun Inger stopped crying. She turned her head and saw that Yang Wenjiao's injuries were affected, and she couldn't help but want to go over to him, but Wang Yuanyuan pulled her back. Wang Yuanyuan gave her a look and shook her head. Long Haochin laughed coldly. You're not a coward? If you're not a coward, you're going to end your life like this? Running away is the most cowardly thing to do. Think about it carefully. How did your friends die? Can you die if you want to? But are you worthy of them if you run away? Aren't you afraid that they'll stab you in the back when you die in the other world? You haven't avenged your friends, and you're going to die? The dragon rider, devil god Asmodeus, won't even remember you, and he'll even be glad that he didn't kill you, a coward who doesn't even dare to take revenge. I know, in your heart, you've always wanted to surpass me and become the #1 of the younger generation of Knights Templars. Come on, I'm waiting. Are you going to give up now? Is there only one throne of God for Knights Templars? Yuan, you grab Inger, I'll throw Yang Wenjiao out now, and let him fend for himself. He's going to die anyway. There's no need to wait for his injuries to heal. No one expected Long Haochin to say such harsh words, to the point that everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't speak for a moment. Long Haochin's cold voice was like a sharp sword that pierced deep into Yang Wenjiao's heart. No, Yang Wenjiao shouted, I want to live. I want to live. I haven't avenged my friends. I can't die like this. His eyes had already turned blood red. Dragon rider, devil god Asmodeus, he's mine. I must tear him into pieces, avenge my friends, and let their souls rest in peace. And me, Duan Yi, who had been silent, also spoke. Half of Asmodeus's life belongs to me. Long Haochin saw that it was about time. He coldly snorted, turned to his friends, and said in a deep voice, What are you all looking at? Didn't I tell you to prepare? As he spoke, he gave everyone a look. Yes, including Chun Ing, all the members of Light of Dawn Monster Hunters, including Zhang Fong, all agreed. In a place where Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi couldn't see, Sima Xian and Lin Xian were giving Long Haochin a thumbs up. Chun Ing was also greatly relieved, and after looking at Long Haochin with gratitude, she didn't rush back to Yang Wenjiao's side, but walked to the side and sat down to cultivate. Now, it was obviously not a good time to pay attention to Yang Wenjiao. It was best for him to calm down. Kai accompanied Long Haochin to sit down in the distance, and said with a low laugh, This is the first time I know that you can speak so harshly. Long Haochin said somewhat helplessly, There's no other way. Didn't you notice their eyes? They were dim. The death of their friends was a huge blow to them. A closed mind is the most difficult to cure. If we don't use strong medicine, it's basically impossible to rouse their fighting spirit. Although this is only using hatred to stimulate their courage to live, it can at least let them live. But at least it would allow them to survive, and they could slowly plan in the future. They aren't stupid. They should be able to think it through. Kai, I nodded, looked at Long Houchen's tired expression, and said, "You should quickly rest. Shouldn't we delay our operation a bit? You're too tired." Long Houchen resolutely shook his head, saying no. For every minute we delay here, the possibility of a great-grandfather facing the Demon Emperor's attack increases. We must let the Demon Emperor know that we have already infiltrated the demon's territory as soon as possible. Moreover, there's at most a 57th ranked demon god in Jalawa City. It won't pose too much of a threat to us. After saying this, he immediately closed his eyes and began to meditate. Although Kai knew that Long Houchen was doing this for the Alliance, for the entire human race, it was still her family in the Exorcist Mountain Pass. Seeing that Long Houchen was so tired and unwilling to rest, how could she not dare to move? At the same time, she secretly prayed for a great-grandfather and her parents, hoping that the Demon Emperor would not attack the Exorcist Mountain Pass. If she knew that there were at least 3 powerful legend-rank monster hunters outside the Demon Emperor's camp, she wouldn't be so nervous. How could the Temple League not restrict the Demon Emperor? Perhaps these 3 monster hunters combined wouldn't be a match for the Demon Emperor and his demon gods. But if they disregarded everything and staked everything on one throw to attack the Demon Emperor, even Feng Xiao, the strongest Demon Emperor in history, would have to think twice. For hours quickly passed, and when Long Houchen opened his eyes again, his companions had already gathered at his side. Without further conversation, Long Houchen directly said, "Let's go." While saying this, his gaze swept to the distant Yangwen Zhao and Duani. They were currently sitting cross-legged in meditation, clearly beginning to recover from their injuries through cultivation. This was definitely a good start. A faint smile appeared on Long Houchen's face, and he launched the Eternal Melodies transmission. Golden light flickered, and the next moment, they reappeared in the demon's Gala province. Long Houchen's clear golden eyes rippled with a faint layer of purple, and then a purple light spread in front of him. The soft purple halo quickly covered an area with a diameter of more than 10 meters, and a huge figure appeared. 6 pairs of eyes of different colors, filled with coldness, slowly opened. A calm and austere aura spread out from its huge amethyst body. Apart from Long Houchen, the others immediately felt a chill run down their spine when they saw its cold eyes, as if they had fallen into an icy abyss. It was only when these 6 pairs of eyes fell on Long Houchen that their gazes changed. It was a very obvious change, warm and excited. Almost in an instant, the 6 big heads came over and crawled in front of Long Houchen, gently rubbing his body as if they were trying to please him. Chuning took a deep breath and said in shock, "Hao Yue's temperament changed so much. Noble, arrogant, cold. Its scales are so beautiful, so charming." When Long Houchen and her grandfather Chun Hongba fought and summoned Hao Yue, Chuning was already unconscious. So this was the first time she saw Hao Yue after they broke up. As a summoner, she understood magical beasts the best, but looking at Hao Yue, as the spiritual maiden, she could not feel any sense of affinity from Hao Yue. In other words, as the spokesperson of the beast deity in the human world, she could not communicate with Hao Yue, let alone get Hao Yue's approval. What did it mean that the spiritual maiden could not communicate with a magical beast? Moreover, Hao Yue's cultivation had just entered the 8th level. He was not even the most powerful magical beast. However, Chuning was not surprised by this. Even her grandfather did not know where Hao Yue's limit was, let alone her current knowledge. Moreover, the stronger Hao Yue was, the better it was for their team. She naturally would not feel bad about Hao Yue ignoring her. Gently patting Hao Yue's head, Long Houchen said, "Let's go. Everyone, follow me and get on Hao Yue's back." Han Yu was shocked. "Leader, I'm afraid Hao Yue will be exposed, right?" Hao Yue's amethyst scales were too obvious. Even if they were high up in the sky, with the sunlight refracting, they would still be easily discovered. Long Houchen smiled indifferently. "We have to let the demons discover us. Otherwise, how can we lure the Demon Emperor back?" For a long time, I'm afraid we will be playing hide-and-seek with the Demon Emperor." His words were full of confidence. Playing hide-and-seek with the Demon Emperor, how domineering. After evolving to 6 heads, Hao Yue's body did not continue to grow in size, but it was already more than 15 meters long. Long Haochen and the others were all on its back, but it did not feel crowded at all. Hao Yue raised its 6 heads and spread its huge wings. Its thick and powerful limbs suddenly pushed off the ground, propelling its huge body into the sky. In an instant, sand and pebbles flew from the ground due to its wings. In the next moment, its beautiful amethyst figure had already rushed into the sky. Under Long Haochen's instructions, it headed south. Just as Hao Yue flew, a green light spread from Little Greenie's head, enveloping Hao Yue's body and Long Haochen and the others. Levitation, a levitation spell that could greatly reduce weight. This was supposed to be a single-target wind spell, but Little Greenie used it to have an AoE effect. After the weight was reduced, Little Greenie flapped its wings, and its speed increased greatly. In the sky, it was like an amethyst meteor as it flew into the distance. Sitting on Hao Yue's back, the light of Dawn Monster Hunters felt very stable, but it was not comfortable, because Hao Yue's body emitted a unique aura, which had a strange sense of suppression on each of them. Moreover, it emitted a trace of coldness from time to time, which made them feel very uncomfortable. This feeling had never been felt before. Even when Hao Yue evolved to 5 heads, this had never happened. Kai hurriedly told this feeling to Long Haochen. After thinking for a while, Long Haochen understood that this should be related to the power of Hao Yue's bloodline. After evolving to 6 heads, Hao Yue's bloodline power was obviously greatly stimulated. This was also the most obvious change apart from growing 6 heads and gaining an additional attribute. Therefore, this could only be the reason for the group's discomfort. However, for the sake of this ambush, the group could only endure it for a while. Long Haochen asked Hao Yue to restrain its bloodline aura as much as possible so that it would not affect the group as much. Hao Yue's flying speed was extremely fast. At the start, Long Haochen thought that it definitely could not compare to Star King in terms of speed. However, Long Haochen quickly realized that he was wrong. With the support of Little Greenie's wind magic, Hao Yue's speed became faster and faster, completely surpassing Star King's. Flying thousands of meters in the sky, it only took them an hour to see Jialuo City. Our target is the Demon Shrine in Jialuo City. When Hao Yue descends, we will try our best to destroy the Demon Shrine and the demons inside. However, do not leave the Demon Shrine. Lin Xen, the 2 of you do not leave Hao Yue's back. Don't attack first. If the enemy is strong, use your summoning magic to cover our retreat. After a few simple instructions, Long Haochen patted Hao Yue's neck. He and Hao Yue were telepathically connected. The huge purple crystal body instantly transformed into a purple meteor, diving straight into Jialuo City. Any demon god of the demons had the right to build a demon shrine. However, the specifications were different. Every 12 demon gods, the specifications would increase by 1 level. The Demon Emperor's Demon Palace was undoubtedly the grandest demon shrine. Although Long Haochen was not sure if Leopard Demon God Ozzy was in Jialuo City, regardless of whether he was or not, as a demon god guarding a region, his demon shrine would definitely be built in Jialuo City. It would also definitely be the best building in Jialuo City. Therefore, even if it was their first time here, as Hao Yue dived down, they immediately locked onto the location of the Leopard Demon God's Demon Shrine. This demon shrine was located in the center of Jialuo City. The huge palace was dozens of meters tall and covered an area of at least 10,000 square meters. At the front of the huge palace, there was an entrance with a leopard head. The fire-red leopard head opened its mouth wide, and on it, lines of pitch-black magic markings spread from its forehead to the back. This was the Leopard Demon God Ozzy's Demon Shrine, the Leopard Demon Palace. All demon shrines were built according to the demon god's requirements. Inside, There were formations set up by the demon god ancestors to enhance cultivation and strength. Therefore, it could be said that the demon gods in their own demon shrines were the most powerful. Unless there was a war or other special circumstances, their demon god pillars would usually be in their own demon shrines. A purple crystal ball suddenly appeared in the sky and dived down, immediately attracting the attention of the leopard demons in Jalawa City. Leopard demons above the 6th level had the ability to fly. More than 10 yellow figures soared up from Jalawa City and charged towards the purple crystal ball of light that had suddenly appeared. Leopard demons were usually about 2 meters tall. Those above the 6th level could grow wings on their backs and evolve into big leopard demons. Their bodies were like humans, but they had the heads of leopards, and their bodies were covered in yellow fur. The stronger the leopard demon, the thicker and glossier its fur. Roar! A deafening roar sounded brazenly. Immediately after, 6 different colors of light seemed to burst out from the huge purple crystal ball at the same time. The big leopard demon that had soared into the sky to investigate was instantly turned into clouds of blood mist in the air. A terrifying spiritual pressure descended from the sky. A large number of fireballs, ice arrows, wind blades, light blades, falling rocks, and dark purple poison balls descended from the sky, sweeping towards the leopard demon palace like a violent storm. It was Hao Yue's power. Do not underestimate these low-level magic spells that it had cast. The power of the same magic spell was much stronger. The degree of compression of each magic spell was more than 3 times that of a normal situation. However, the leopard demon palace was the panther demon god Other's demon god temple after all. The sudden attack immediately triggered the defensive spell formation of the leopard demon palace. A layer of pitch-black light suddenly spread from the leopard demon palace, turning into a huge black light shield that enveloped the entire leopard demon palace. The concentrated magic spells bombarded the black light shield, creating layers of ripples, but did not cause any substantial damage to it. The reaction of the leopard demons within Jalawa City was relatively fast. If one looked down from the sky, they would see a large number of leopard demons charging towards them from all directions. Within the leopard demon palace, there were also leopard demons appearing. It was not that the Temple League's demon hunters had never attacked Jalawa City before, but this was the first time they had done it so openly and forcefully. After all, such an attack was not just against the leopard demon palace, but all the leopard demons within Jalawa City. Although there were not many leopard demons, there were at least tens of thousands of them. Jalawa City was the base of the leopard demons, and almost all the strongest leopard demons were here. There were more than 10 powerhouses of the 8th level and above. Normally, there was even the leopard demon god Other holding down the fort. Moreover, Jalawa City was not a border city. Even if such a frontal attack succeeded, they would have to face the encirclement of the powerhouses of the leopard demons rushing over from all directions. Hao Yue's swooping figure was about to reach the top of the leopard demon palace. Its previous attack spells had not caused any substantial damage to the leopard demon palace's dark shield. At this moment, its appearance was clearly seen by the leopard demons below. A dragon with 6 heads? As Hao Yue sprouted a pair of wings, the shape of its head and horns changed. It no longer looked like a lizard, but more like a dragon. Just as all the leopard demons were extremely confident in the leopard demon palace's shield and thought that Hao Yue would be repelled. Hao Yue's 6 heads let out another furious roar. A layer of purple instantly spread out from its body and collided with the leopard demon palace's shield. A strange scene appeared. Under the shocked gazes of the leopard demons, the moment the shield came into contact with the purple layer, it was like a layer of snow that had been splashed with boiling oil. It actually melted. Then, Hao Yue's huge body directly collided with the top of the leopard demon palace. Rumble. The violent roar was accompanied by the scattering of soil and rocks. The entire Jia City trembled because of this deafening roar. Hao Yue actually smashed into the leopard demon palace just like that. A huge hole was smashed into the top of the leopard demon palace, and its 4 thick and powerful limbs crashed to the ground. It was in the hall of the Leopard Demon Palace. The huge impact caused a large crack to appear on the hard ground, but Haoyue seemed to be fine. Its 6 heads were like 6 magic cannons, madly spitting attack spells in its surroundings. A solid fortress was always the easiest to break through from the inside. It was the same for the Leopard Demon Palace. The shield on the outside was strong, but who would set up a defensive shield on the inside? Under the continuous bombardment of Haoyue's 6 elemental magic, the Leopard Demon Palace was instantly in a mess. The members of the Glimmer of Dawn monster hunters were dumbfounded. Haoyue was too fierce. They were originally prepared to break the Leopard Demon Palace's shield, but who knew that Haoyue would let out a loud roar and smash his way in just like that? At this moment, their hearts were filled with a carefree and unrestrained feeling. Haoyue's method of attack was too satisfying. Chen-Ning, in particular, was so excited that she jumped on Haoyue's back. Yang Wenjiao had been seriously injured. Although his injuries had started to improve, it would still be impossible for him to fully recover without a month or two. This aggro naturally fell on the demons. At that moment, they were actually attacking a city of demons, which was the capital of a province. Moreover, they were using this method. It was too satisfying. Haoyue's barrage of spells actually deterred the powerhouses of the leopard demons from charging in. The Leopard Demon Palace's building was really sturdy. Although there was a large area of damage caused by the violent explosions, it did not completely collapse. At that moment, several yellow figures leaped in from the surroundings. The intense dark aura instantly transformed into layers of black light shields to resist Haoyue's bombardment of spells. Haoyue's eyes narrowed, and his 6 heads roared at the same time. Suddenly, purple light appeared again, and the powerhouses of the leopard demons who had released the black light shields froze. The defensive spells in their hands also stopped. Haoyue's 6 heads smashed a series of spells, and the bodies of the leopard demons, which were at least at the 6th grade, were instantly torn to shreds. Lin Xian swallowed his saliva, looked at Long Haochen, and said, "Boss, why do I feel that we don't need to do anything anymore? Haoyue is going to settle it all by himself." Indeed, when Haoyue's 6 heads unleashed their full power, there was no room for them to intervene. Haoyue's spells almost covered the entire hall of the Leopard Demon Palace. If they jumped off from Haoyue's back, they would probably be affected. Long Haochen's eyes were also filled with surprise. After evolving into 6 heads, the power of Haoyue's spells had increased greatly. Moreover, his spiritual power seemed to be endless. When he released his spells, Long Haochen could feel a large amount of elemental feedback being injected into Haoyue's body, rapidly restoring his spiritual power. In just a short while, the hall of the Leopard Demon Palace looked like it was in ruins. Where was the smell of a demon god's temple? Don't worry, there are stronger leopard demons coming. Everyone prepare for battle. Long Haochen shouted in a deep voice. Just as Long Haochen spoke, suddenly, a yellow silhouette flashed like lightning, pouncing straight at Haoyue. This yellow light was really too fast. In practically a breath's time, it arrived in front of Haoyue. Moreover, when it accelerated in the air, it also effectively avoided Haoyue's spells. It drilled through the cracks, leaving behind a slightly distorted yellow silhouette. That was a leopard demon. Its entire body was covered in golden fur, as glossy as water. A pair of yellow crystalline eyes revealed a cold, killing intent. The front of its thick and powerful arms sprang out sharp claws that were over a foot long. The instant it arrived in front of Haoyue, the wings on its back suddenly folded, unexpectedly changing its direction. It rose up, its claws directly digging at Light's eyes. Whether it was speed, strength, or reaction, this leopard demon was much stronger than the previous ones. The swift and fierce aura of darkness was almost tangible. The sharp claws even brought with them an ear-piercing whistle in the air. That was already close to the might of the Ling Gang. The weakness of leopard demons was their weak defense, but speed and attack were their strong points. This panther demon had displayed this advantage to the fullest. In the face of this sudden sneak attack, Haoyue acted as if he didn't see it at all. He continued to release magic as he should, completely ignoring it. An orange-red light suddenly appeared in front of the leopard demon almost at the moment when its attack was about to fall on Light's head. Dang! There was a clear explosion. The leopard demon's body bounced up in response. Its pair of sharp claws made a move like a wild horse parting its mane. Each of its claws scattered 4 pitch-black blades of light, sweeping straight at Long Houchen, who had blocked its attack. At this moment, Long Houchen's body flickered with golden light. That was the light's vengeance after the Divine Guard. When he received the leopard demon's attack, just now, his body also trembled slightly. He immediately determined that this gold leopard demon had the cultivation of the 8th rank. The tip of his foot tapped lightly on Hao Yue's back, and an orange-red blade of light swept out like a waterfall. The moment the blade of light appeared, it brought with it a 6-foot sword light. The orange-red light curled in the air, and all the black blades of light were instantly smashed into pieces. Then, Long Houchen's body suddenly froze in the air. The aria of the goddess of light floated forward and slashed forward. This sword was like an antelope hanging its horn, untraceable. The sword intent wasn't fierce, and even carried a bit of gentleness. However, the 8th rank gold leopard demon was shocked to find that it couldn't dodge at all. It couldn't even retreat. With its speed, it couldn't escape the sword-intense envelopment at all. With a low roar, the gold leopard demon's pair of sharp claws instantly turned golden. Its body rotated rapidly, and both claws slashed at Long Houchen at the same time. The spiritual power released from the pair of sharp claws actually had a dark golden luster. Clang! A crisp sound accompanied the gold leopard demon's scream. How many powerful demons had Long Houchen faced? He had challenged more than 5 demon god-level existences. Although he didn't win every time, he had fought with so many powerhouses. How could this 8th rank gold leopard demon stop him? The seemingly gentle sword intent burst forth the moment it came into contact with the gold leopard demon's claws. That clang was the result of the aria of the goddess of light instantly shattering the claws. However, this gold leopard demon was indeed powerful. After the aria of the goddess of light shattered its claws, although the remaining power left a deep wound from its chest to its thigh, it couldn't kill it in one strike. It must be known that this was the sword intent released by a divine sword. This gold leopard demon was quite powerful to be able to withstand this blow without dying. Feeling the increasing affinity between him and the aria of the goddess of light, Long Houchen didn't even look at the leopard demon that he had slashed away. The orange light flashed again. This time, the sword gleamed brightly, and the light-severing sword brought out a half-moon slash and directly caught up with the leopard demon's body. In an instant, it was split in half. An 8th grade devilish being had perished at the hands of Long Houchen, who was also an 8th grade devilish being. This was not only the difference in strength, but also the difference in equipment. Long Houchen's equipment was all above epic grade. The aria of the goddess of light and the sun-moon divine snail shield could be transformed into artifacts at any time, coupled with his understanding of sword intent. Even the dragon rider, demon god Asmodeus, had to be careful, and in the end, he was injured in the hands of Long Houchen, not to mention such an ordinary gold leopard demon. However, at the same time as the gold leopard demon made its move, a golden figure also rushed in. The black light intertwined in the air, blocking Hao Yue's magic bombardment to a great extent. With the magic suppression blocked, a large number of leopard demons also rushed in from the outside. In order to block Hao Yue's magic attack, at least 8 other gold leopard demons rushed into the hall. Looking at the mess in the leopard demon palace, these leopard demons let out angry roars. However, they only surrounded Long Houchen and the others, and didn't rush to attack. Hao Yue's magic stopped, and his cold eyes looked around at all the leopard demons. A deep incantation began to be chanted rhythmically from its 6 large heads. Of course, Long Houchen knew what Hao Yue was going to do. He immediately floated to the top of Little Baldy's head, and in his heart, he stopped it from chanting. Hao Yue was going to use the 6 attribute chaos elemental stripping. Although there were many leopard demons here, if Hao Yue used the 6 attribute chaos elemental stripping, other than the few 8th grade gold leopard demons who might survive, the rest of the leopard demons would definitely be wiped out. However, this level of chaos elemental stripping was also very taxing on Hao Yue. This was an important place for the demons, and Long Haochen didn't intend to use the teleportation here. Therefore, it was necessary for Hao Yue to maintain his strength. Moreover, he could already sense that there were enemies in the leopard demon palace that he wanted to meet. Do it! Long Haochen waved his hand and took the lead to jump off Hao Yue's back. Entering the territory of the demons, he no longer needed to hide his identity. For golden spiritual wings unfurled from his back, and he shot towards the enemies like a golden arrow. Other than Chuning, and Lin Xen, the others also jumped off Hao Yue's back. With Hao Yue's protection, the 2 magic professionals didn't need to worry about their safety. Wang Yuan, Sima Xian, Zhang Fangfang, Han Yu, and Kai the 5 of them charged in different directions from Long Haochen. Each of them had a pair of spiritual wings on their back, releasing a powerful pressure. Chapter 215. They were completely different from before. Before the Holy War, when they encountered so many strong enemies, they would definitely gather together and maintain a formation for safety. But now, they all had the strength to fight on their own. Facing enemies of this level, if they gathered together to fight, it would only affect their combat power. At the same time, Hao Yue showed a side that was completely different from the previous Mercury-like attack. Amidst the low and somewhat messy magic chanting, Xiaohua took the lead. A total of 6 flashes of light flashed, and all 6 of them, including Long Haochen, were covered with a layer of flame shield. This shield was about 3 meters in diameter, shining with a dark red light. This light did not affect their movements at all, but outside the shield, the leopard demons facing it would feel intense heat. The lower-level leopard demons' fur directly gave off a burnt smell. Xiao Qing was the second. He cast haste on everyone, causing green light to flicker under their feet and their bodies to become significantly lighter. Immediately after, 2 huge halo skills that covered the whole area spread out, both targeted at the enemies. The 9th Holy Guard's gravity spell was displayed in Goldie's incantation. The extremely fast leopard demons instantly felt their bodies become heavy. Their speed was greatly limited. The other halo came from Xiao Guang, a simple light elemental vibration. For Long Haochen and the others, it would add more light aura, but for the leopard demons of the dark attribute, it was a significant weakening. Little Purple and Little Blue were still chanting, and it seemed that they would still need some time to complete their incantations. But there was no doubt that the longer the incantation, the more powerful it would be. As a magician, Lin Xen, who was standing on Hao Yue's back, was a little dumbfounded. Hao Yue at this time really looked like 6 8th grade sacred magicians fighting together. From the previous all-out attack to the current all-out enhancement, its strength was fully displayed. Furthermore, it also further revealed the terrifying fact that each of its heads possessed individual intelligence. There were 6 intelligent beings in one body, yet they were all so coordinated. What kind of magical beast was this? Chen Yinger was no less shocked than Lin Xian. With Hao Yue's buff, Long Haochen's group of 6 engaged the enemy at close range. Long Haochen was the first to make a move. He pounced towards 2 rank 8 leopard demons and a large number of rank 6 big leopard demons. Those who were able to rush in here were at least tier 6 cultivators. Clearly, these leopard demons also knew that low-level ones were useless against these humans who dared to charge into the leopard demon palace. Thousands of orange-red sword lights sprayed out, and the sharp sword intent instantly filled the dilapidated hall with a piercingly cold, killing intent. The tyrannical light elements blossomed in an almost solidified manner. Sword Star Shower. Even without Hao Yue's buff, Long Haochen's current combat strength was still extremely terrifying. The Sword Meteor Shower instantly covered all the enemies within a 30-meter radius. The huge sword lights seemed to have substance, as if the aura of the Goddess of Light had instantly split into countless clones to attack the enemy. Long Houchen's attack was truly too ferocious. Not to mention the rank 6 big leopard demons. Even the gold leopard demons could only retreat and defend with all their might against his sword meteor shower. Blood splattered everywhere. In front of the sword meteor shower, the rank 6 big leopard demons were torn to pieces. Their passive defense could not withstand the sword meteor shower's attack. As for the rank 8 gold leopard demons, they could only barely protect themselves. Counterattack was a pipe dream. The only thing these leopard demons could do was use their relatively strong bodies and spiritual energy to exhaust the sword meteor shower's power as much as possible. Even so, not only did Long Houchen's sword break their counterattack, it also left behind more than 30 big leopard demons' corpses. With a sharp roar, just as the sword meteor shower weakened, 2 gold leopard demons pounced towards Long Houchen from both sides like golden lightning. Their sharp claws had already turned dark gold as they launched a frenzied attack. However, at this moment, a heavy sword appeared in Long Houchen's left hand. An emerald green luster flashed at almost the same time. The hazy golden-green luster scattered out and enveloped Long Houchen. It was like a spring rain under the sun, concealing his figure. A series of crisp sounds rang out as the 2 gold leopard demons retreated at the same time. There were many small wounds on their innately tough claws. However, Long Houchen's figure had already charged forward again. He didn't care about them at all. He activated Light Speed Flash and instantly reached a speed that surpassed the gold leopard demons. He charged into the group of big leopard demons. Emerald green and orange light flashed at the same time, turning into a berserk storm of blades. The terrifying suction force pulled in the surrounding big leopard demons. These demons were usually very strong, but now they were like fruits that had entered a grinder. In front of the 2 epic divine swords, they were turned into a pile of flesh and blood. The 2 gold leopard demons couldn't stop Long Houchen at all. Faced with such a strong storm of blades, they didn't even have the courage to charge forward. At the same time, a strong killing aura erupted in other directions. Kair's attack was the simplest and most direct. She only raised a simple gray line from her hand. The gray light from the Grim Reaper's scythe was filled with death and destruction. It also seemed to purify the darkness. While Long Houchen was rampaging about, Kair had already killed a golden panther demon of the 8th step. At the same time, the Grim Reaper's scythe's cold light slashed horizontally, crazily slaughtering the ordinary big panther demons. The gloomy and cold gray light became the nightmare of the panther demons. Compared to Long Houchen and Kai, Han Yu and Zhang Fangfang were more conventional. The 2 of them held a large shield in one hand and a heavy sword in the other. They charged into the enemy's formation and killed their way forward. Although their killing power couldn't compare to the leader and deputy leader, their defense was impregnable. Every time they attacked, they would definitely have a target. As the Guardian Knight, they obviously held back and were ready to reinforce their companions at any time. The real highlights were Wang Yuan and Sima Xian. As soon as she entered the killing mode, Wang Yuan's beautiful eyes turned blood red. It was as if she had returned to the time when she fought against the demon army in the warrior's temple. The blood in her body was already boiling. The sanguine storm in her hand was covered in a layer of red light and emitted a terrifying attack power. She even used the divine soul shield as a long-range weapon. Wherever the bloody goddess of war passed, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. A faint layer of blood-red aura burst out from Wang Yuan. Any leopard demons who got close to this blood-red aura or saw the look in Wang Yuan's eyes would feel a chill down their spine. This was the terrifying, murderous aura that Wang Yuan had cultivated on the battlefield. She had walked out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Over the past 2 years, countless enemies had died under her sanguine storm at the top of the southeast fortress. As soon as she entered the fighting mode, she would naturally release a tyrannical, murderous aura. She would first seize the opponent's mind and then launch a tyrannical attack. She alternated between sanguine rend and bloody saw dance. Coupled with her mysterious spatial gait and spiritual stove, as soon as she entered the battle, she directly drilled into the densest area of the enemy and began a bloody massacre. In just a short period of time, the number of leopard demons that had died at her hands was no less than the number that had died at the hands of Long Haochen. Although Wang Yuanyuan was a girl, she now had the aura of a great general that looked down on everything. On the other side, Sima Xian was also extremely tyrannical. This guy couldn't directly teleport into the enemy's formation through the spiritual stove like Wang Yuanyuan could. However, his terrifying lethality was above that of Wang Yuanyuan. The spiritual wings on his back flapped, and a layer of reddish-gold luster lit up on Sima Xian's body. His entire body seemed to be made of copper and iron. Even the skin on his face had turned reddish-gold. One could vaguely see that this reddish-gold luster was emitted from his chest. A golden leopard demon directly attacked him, wanting to stop him and then surround him with the other leopard demons. However, it was also at this moment that Sima Xian raised the terrifying vigor pill of light in his hand. What was shocking was that the vigor pill of light actually emitted an epic orange-red light. Immediately after, that orange-red light turned purple. Thousands of purple lightning bolts instantly burst forth with overwhelming power. They all crashed into the group of leopard demons. Even the golden leopard demon was not spared. It could only defend with all its might. The speed of lightning was simply impossible to dodge. Thus, the leopard demon's speed was completely useless. This burst of purple lightning enveloped at least 100 leopard demons. After being bombarded by the purple lightning, these leopard demons were all charred. Their bodies twitched, and their fur stood on end. Even if they didn't die, they were half dead. Immediately after, Sima Xian threw out the vigor pill of light in his hand. Unlike the vigor pill of light in the past, the current vigor pill of light was connected to a dark golden chain. The chain looked very small, only as thick as a pinky, but it was a shocking 10 meters long. An intense golden light could be seen emitting from Sima Xian's hand that was holding the chain. The vigor pill of light that flew into the air actually stopped in the instant that the chain reached its limit. Immediately after, thousands of white lights burst forth from the vigor pill of light. When the white lights landed, the leopard demons that had been hit by the purple lightning were completely turned into ashes. All that was left was a floor of magical crystals. Even a golden leopard demon was now pitch black. Its body was still twitching as it fell to the ground. Sima Xian pulled with his right hand, and the vigor pill of light descended from the sky. At the same time, white halos enveloped the rank 8 golden leopard demon, preventing it from escaping. Then, it was the vigor pill of light's most proficient move, crushing, pulverizing, and triple explosion. Amidst the terrifying explosion, the golden leopard demon that had not been turned into ashes was directly turned into meat paste. His series of attacks had forcibly emptied the leopard demons in his direction. After all, there were only 500 to 600 big leopard demons that had rushed into the hall. This was where the elites of the leopard demons were gathered. The 9 golden leopard demons that led them were the strongest among the leopard demons. However, in just a short while, at least 200 big leopard demons and 4 golden leopard demons had perished. Half of them were gone. Sima Xian's terrifying area of effect skill had almost killed as many as the others combined. Even Long Haochen's brilliance was somewhat overshadowed. Lin, Xian, and Channing looked at each other, dumbfounded. When did Sima become so strong? Wasn't his spiritual power the weakest among them? However, the terrifying and powerful attack just now had truly shocked them. Even the 8th grade leopard demon seemed so vulnerable in front of him, who was at the 7th grade. How did Baldy become so strong? Channing asked in surprise. Lin Xian's mouth twitched. He had thought that he had improved by leaps and bounds in the past 2 years, but now it seemed that everyone's improvement was equally great. Channing was the same, and so were Sima Xian and Wang Yuanyuan. This guy doesn't seem to be afraid of the backlash from a spiritual stove of purple godly thunder, and his spiritual stove must have advanced. That should be the spiritual stove's advanced skill. Also, his vigor pill of light is wrong. How did it become epic? He's not afraid of the backlash from the spiritual stove of purple, godly thunder, and it has something to do with the layer of reddish gold on his body. Did this guy change his shotgun for a cannon? Since when did the temple of the priests become so rich? Sima, be careful. Long Haochen, who was fighting among the enemies, suddenly shouted. At this moment, a dark red light suddenly appeared on the battlefield without warning and went straight for Sima Xian. The dark red light turned into the shape of a leopard and went straight for Sima Xian's chest. Hearing Long Haochen's warning, Sima Xian understood that the enemy who suddenly appeared must be stronger than him and could threaten his life. Otherwise, Long Haochen wouldn't have said that. In fact, Long Haochen had been paying attention to the battlefield, waiting for the enemy to appear. His original plan was to use his strong performance to attract the enemy's attention. However, who knew that Sima Xian's destructive power would surpass his? The enemy suddenly changed its target, and Long Haochen was caught unprepared. The vigor pill of light was placed horizontally in front of his chest. Sima Xian's eyes suddenly lit up. At the same time, the vigor pill of light was placed on his chest, and a strange change occurred on the outside. It was as if there was an extra eye. When the eye opened, a huge purple electric light with a diameter of a foot suddenly burst out. Rumble. Amidst the terrifying roar, the entire demon leopard palace shook violently. Dust rustled as it fell. The dark red leopard light and the purple electric light were extinguished together. The dark red figure that suddenly rushed out also came to an abrupt stop. It stopped abruptly. It didn't even come into contact with Sima Xian's vigor pill of light. However, Sima Xian's face also turned pale. Before the dark red figure could attack again, a white light had already wrapped around Sima Xian's waist and pulled his body back rapidly. At the same time, Long Haochen's golden figure had already blocked Sima Xian's path. At this moment, Little Blue and Little Purple of Hao Yue's 6 heads completed their magic. The ice blue halo was the first to be activated, and its target was the leopard demons at the periphery. The temperature in the air dropped rapidly. In this chilly atmosphere, all the leopard demons were covered in a layer of frost. The 8th grade golden leopard demons fared better, but the big leopard demons with a lower cultivation base were mostly frozen into ice sculptures. They couldn't break free for a while. Immediately after, countless purplish-green poison balls scattered in all directions. These poison balls seemed to have eyes as they landed on the ice sculptures. Then, the ice sculptures also turned the same color and slowly melted along with the leopard demons inside. Long Haochen's shout just now was like a summoning spell. What he blocked in front of Sima Xian, Han Yu, and Zhang Fangfang also rushed over from the two sides. Wang Yunyun rushed over from the back. Kai Er's figure disappeared in stealth. Long Haochen was extremely shocked. It wasn't because of the sudden appearance of the enemy, but because of Sima Xian's explosive increase in strength. Long Haochen was most aware of the strength of the enemy's attack just now. He didn't expect Sima Xian to not only block the attack unscathed, he didn't even take a step back. That was an enemy with a 9th grade cultivation base. At this moment, the enemy in front of them appeared in front of them. It was a 2-meter-tall leopard demon, whose entire body was emitting intense dark red flames. Compared to the other leopard demons, his body didn't stand out in any way, but the dark red flames around his body and the dark red shiny fur on his body revealed his identity. Leopard demon god Usai. Long Haochen shouted in a low voice. That's right, this powerful leopard demon was the leader of the leopard demons, the leopard demon god Usai, who guarded Galuo City in the Galuo province. Although the scene in front of him made Usai's lungs explode with anger, he was also a little panicked. The enemy was attacking the leopard demon palace head-on. When Hao Yue broke through the leopard demon palace's defenses, he was startled awake. Because he had been in seclusion, he had rushed over a little late. He watched as Long Haochen and the rest launched a frenzied massacre, especially Sima Xian's 2 attacks just now, which were too overbearing. Hence, after weighing the pros and cons, he decided to launch a sneak attack on Sima Xian. He would first get rid of the enemy's strongest attacker. What he didn't know was that Long Haochen and the rest were connected by the soul chain. Not to mention the fact that Sima Xian could block his attack. Even if he couldn't, the soul chain would share the burden. It was impossible for him to kill Sima Xian. Looking at these young humans in front of him, Usai's expression was extremely ugly. He faintly felt that this was not going to be easy to get through. His leopard demon palace had been destroyed. Moreover, in that short period of time, almost half of the elite leopard demons had been killed. Such a huge loss had never been seen among the leopard demons. These humans looked young, but he had seen their strength with his own eyes. However, this was his territory, the leopard demon palace. As the leopard demon god, he couldn't retreat in front of his own people. Despicable humans, today all of you will die. Usai's cold voice sounded through gritted teeth. As he spoke, the claws behind his back moved slightly rhythmically. The entire leopard demon palace began to emit a layer of strange dark spiritual energy. In the backyard of the leopard demon palace, a dark red light pillar suddenly shot into the sky, and a thick pillar gradually appeared. On this thick demon god pillar, there were countless leopard head carvings, and dark red flames rose violently. To deal with the leopard demon god in front of him, Long Haochen obviously couldn't bring him to the Tower of Eternity like he did with the demon god of insight, Crow Cell. The previous teleportation was caused by the demon god of insight's innate skill and the eternal melodies teleportation. It was impossible to teleport a powerful demon god over. Wouldn't the other party struggle? However, Long Haochen had never had absolute confidence in defeating a demon god like he did now. That was because he wasn't fighting alone, and he had many powerful teammates by his side. Sima Xian's explosive power also told him that every one of his teammates had made great progress in the past 2 years. They were a whole that could fight a demon god head-on. After the battle with the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus, Long Haochen faintly felt that if Asmodeus was their only enemy at that time, then he and his teammates could concentrate all their strength, and they might be able to fight against Asmodeus. However, because he was afraid of Asmodeus's demon god transformation and domain, Long Haochen didn't do that. He didn't want to repeat the mistakes of Yang, Wenjiao, and Duani. However, they were now facing the leopard demon goddess Sai, who was ranked 57th among the 72 demon god pillars. He had already made up his mind to end the life of another demon's demon god here today. We are the light of dawn monster hunters, and I am the leader, Long Haochen. Tell you our names, and you can die in peace. Inger, do it. Long Haochen said loudly. He said it for all the leopard demons to hear. After all, they were here to expose their whereabouts. Chun Ing heard Long Haochen's order and immediately sat cross-legged on Hao Yue's back and started chanting. Of course, she knew what the leader meant. They had to go all out to fight the leopard demon god Isai, and her mission was to prevent any other demon god from affecting Long Haochen's battle. Lin Xian also started chanting, and his eyes were locked on the leopard demon god Isai. On the contrary, Hao Yue was quiet, and his 6 heads were coldly watching the surroundings. After receiving the combined attack from Little Blue and Little Purple, 70% of the leopard demon's elite were lost, and the rest were not in good condition. They were actually afraid to advance. However, there was a hubbub of voices outside the leopard demon palace, and it was obvious that a large number of leopard demons had rushed over. However, their strength was definitely not comparable to the leopard demon's elite. Roar! The leopard demon god Usai roared at the sky, and the dark red flames on his body suddenly erupted like a volcano. Within the thick dark red light pillar, the muscles on Usai's body swelled, and in the blink of an eye, his height exceeded 3 meters. His pair of sharp claws also grew to 1 meter long. His legs were exceptionally thick, and the dark red wings on his back were retracted, turning into smaller wings. A pair of dark red eyes emitted a venomous glint. Long Haochen's face revealed a sneer, and a golden figure separated from his back. Then a white light filled with a pure and holy aura floated over and landed on the leopard demon god Usai's body. Usai, who had just completed his demon god transformation, suddenly became sluggish. although he did not feel any harm from the white light. When he discovered that the white light couldn't be stopped from landing on his body, he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of danger. When he raised his head and looked forward, he discovered that in his eyes there was only Long Houchen. Without a doubt, the thing that emitted the white light was the saint's spiritual stove, and that golden figure was without a doubt Yi-Ting. The leopard demon goddess Sai was the leader of the leopard demons, so his abilities would certainly not be outside the scope of the leopard demons. At the very least, he would be an enhanced version of an ordinary leopard demon. Moreover, from the scene of him launching a surprise attack on Sima Xian as fast as lightning, it could be seen that speed was definitely his greatest advantage. After the demon god transformation, his wings had shrunk. What did this mean? His wings had become folded wings, and the only thing that increased was his explosive speed. In other words, after the demon god transformation, Usai's speed would increase by a step. With Long Houchen's rich battle experience, he could see the most difficult part of Usai to deal with a single glance. If he was allowed to fully display his speed, his side's formation would certainly be broken, and it would be impossible to maintain it so well. At that time, the entire battlefield would become the leopard demon god stage. However, Long Houchen had his own methods. The saint's spiritual stove could be said to be the nemesis of this kind of agility-type demons. No matter how fast you are, your only target is me, and you can only attack me. Therefore, your speed is only aimed at me. As long as I'm not killed by you, you can't go and deal with others. Although Long Houchen was bearing all the pressure on himself, at the same time, he had also weakened the leopard demon god Isai's greatest advantage. The blue rain and hibiscus of light in his left hand had already been put away. The golden light behind his back reappeared, and the aura of light on Long Houchen's body suddenly rose sharply. This time, Yi-Ting had directly integrated into his body, causing his spiritual power to become even purer and increased to an extreme. The Sun Moon Divine Snail Shield was placed horizontally in front of him, and Long Houchen poured his spiritual power into this divine tool shield without caring about the consumption. He had never thought of competing with the leopard demon goddess Sai in terms of speed. Facing a 9-step demon god who was especially good at speed, competing with the other party for superiority was absolutely unwise. Moreover, he didn't need to do that. What he needed to do was to defend impregnably, not giving the other half a chance. That was enough. The rest was left to his companions. The panic after suffering from the saint's spiritual stove made the leopard demon god explode in a flash. The dark red light simply seemed to teleport and suddenly arrived in front of Long Houchen. Its 2 huge claws tore through the air and at the same time slashed at Long Houchen. Behind Long Houchen, everyone could see that Long Houchen's right foot slightly retreated half a step, and his whole body made a bow stance. Immediately after, the Sun Moon Divine Snail Shield in his hand emitted a magnificent 7-colored golden light. This golden light spread in a flash, forming a shield wall in front of everyone. Amidst the ear-piercing sound of metal scraping, Long Houchen did not retreat a single step, and his body instead emitted a golden light. Light's vengeance. Seeing their leader assume such a stance, how could his companions not understand what kind of tactics Long Houchen needed? Practically without hesitation, everyone behind him flashed out, launching an all-out attack on the leopard demon god. Under the violent collision, Long Houchen only felt his arms go numb, and he couldn't help but be secretly shocked. After this 9th-step leopard demon god completed his demon god transformation, his attack power was tyrannical, actually approaching the level of the dragon rider demon god Asmodeus. From this, it could be seen how much help the demon god pillar had given him. At that time, Long Houchen was absolutely lucky to kill the demon god Clauzel in the Tower of Eternity. If Clauzel had the demon god pillar by his side, the one to die would definitely be Long Houchen himself. The leopard demon god Ozzy was also shocked to be able to repel Long Houchen with a single attack. As a demon god, he could naturally sense the true level of Long Houchen's cultivation. Although Long Houchen's equipment was very powerful, he was only an 8th-step knight. He was confident that his opponent's strength could not erase the difference between their cultivation. Furthermore, now that he had entered the demon god transformation state, be it his internal or external spiritual energy, both had a qualitative leap. Even if he faced the top 50 demon gods, if they did not use the demon god transformation, they might not be a match for him, especially since Ozzy's forte was attack. His attack was very strong, but he was facing the Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield transformed by the Starlight Divine Beast. Moreover, it was the Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield that had been activated by Long Houchen as a divine weapon. When Long Houchen was facing the Dragon Rider, demon god, Asmodeus, he did not use the Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield. It was not because the Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield could not block Asmodeus' attack, but because the divine weapon Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield consumed too much spiritual energy. He would not be able to hold it for long, and it was not good for a protracted battle. At that time, he could not even let Yuting help him increase his spiritual energy. He wanted to keep Yuting's power to enhance the aura of the Goddess of Light. But now, the situation was completely different. Long Houchen was not fighting alone. He had so many partners around him. What he had to do was to block the leopard demon god's attack as much as possible and attract all the attacks to himself. In that case, there was no better choice than the Sun-Moon Divine Snail shield, the divine weapon shield, and the divine defense block. For a demon god of the level of the leopard demon god Ozzy, before Long Houchen's spiritual energy was exhausted, it was an almost unsolvable existence. Ozzy's attack did not succeed, but his own terrifying strength was still revealed. Due to the Saint Spiritual Stove's influence, he was unable to attack others, but it did not affect the huge threat he felt from the other monster hunters of the Glimmer of Dawn. His figure flashed, and like lightning, he flashed to the other side. Sharp claw shadows covered Long Houchen from all directions. He knew that only by killing this knight in front of him could he deal with the others. However, at the same time as the leopard demon god moved, the attacks of the people of the Glimmer of Dawn also arrived. 2 rays of red light fell on Ozzy's body at the same time. No matter how fast he was, his body would always pause for a moment when he launched his attack. And this pause only needed to be noticed by his eyes. These 2 rays of red light were locked onto by Zhang Fangfang and Han Yu. At the same time that he locked onto the leopard demon god, Han Yu opened his own light blessing spiritual stove. At the same time, the scarlet blood berserk in his right hand slashed at Ozzy. Without a doubt, the light blessing spiritual stove was mainly activated for Long Houchen, helping him to gather more spiritual energy to maintain his defense in a short period of time. As for whether the scarlet blood berserk could injure the leopard demon god, it was not a problem for him to consider. Zhang Fangfang's attack was very heavy. Relying on the momentum of the lock, he condensed all the spiritual energy in his body on the shield. Shield strike. The strong light element instantly rose to the extreme, and it slammed towards the leopard demon god's body from the side. Ozzy's speed was really too fast. Even though he was locked onto by the 2 knight, Zhang Fangfang and Han Yu's attacks were still slid away by his tyrannical spiritual energy. The 2 rank 7 Guardian Knight's attacks could at most slightly affect his speed. However, in the next moment, a monstrous bloody aura had already enveloped his body. Ozzy did not care about that kind of strength, but the bloody aura that was filled with a terrifying killing intent made him shiver uncontrollably. His attack speed was once again reduced by a notch. The terrifying legendary grade weapon, Bloodstorm, had already engulfed him with the terrifying might of Bloodrend and Bloodsaws. This kind of covering attack was already something that Ozzy could not dodge. Roar! Ozzy roared. A terrifying and fierce dark red flame suddenly rushed out of his body, transforming into countless leopard heads that bombarded all directions. He thought very well. Although he had received Long Houchen's front finger, it should not be a problem for him to launch an area attack. Apart from the knight in front of him, how could any other human block an all-out attack from his demon god form? However, he had underestimated the Saint Spiritual Stove after its evolution. The Saint Spiritual Stove had been given to Long Houchen by Long Xingwu and had gone through many evolutions. Among them, It had fused with Yiting to form a synthetic stove, and then absorbed the crystal left behind by the demon god Insight. It had long since left the scope of the saint's spiritual stove. The moment the countless black flaming leopard heads appeared, they unexpectedly did not bombard all directions. Instead, they were all attracted by a strange attractive force and bombarded towards Long Houchin. At this moment, Long Houchin had already been enveloped in a dazzling shield wall of 7 colors. With the amplification of the light's blessing spiritual stove, the time that Long Houchin could maintain the Sun-Moon Divine Snail Shield would definitely be greatly increased. Moreover, he also had the spiritual energy support of Yiting and the Golden Foundation armor. Violent explosions continuously sounded on the shield wall, but simply could not shake the Sun-Moon Divine Snail Shield in the slightest. Ozzy's mistake also caused him to suffer the opponent's attack. The first to land on his body was Wang Yuan's Bloody Storm. Bloody Rend and Bloody Sawtooth Dance instantly combined into one, transforming into a dimensional storm that ruthlessly chopped at his bulging and thick muscles. A glaring bloody light burst out from the void, and Ozzy madly shouted. Although his body's toughness had greatly increased after the demon god transformation. After all, he was not a demon god that specialized in defense. Moreover, that Bloody Storm was a legendary equipment with extremely powerful attack power. Immediately, a bloody wound was left on his back. Chapter 2:16. Sanguinary Tempest had cut the leopard demon god from his right shoulder blade all the way to his ribs. Although the cut was not deep, it had truly injured his body. Furthermore, after Sanguinary Tempest was stained by his demon god blood, there was a sudden change. The originally blood-red luster suddenly shone with an orange-red radiance. This terrifying slaughtering weapon had actually evolved at this time. The stronger cutting force caused flesh and blood to splatter on Ozzy's back as Sanguinary Tempest swept past. The tyrannical killing intent invaded his body, further affecting his speed. Wang Yuan was also pleasantly surprised. Ozzy had already forcefully shifted his position and was frantically attacking Long Houchin's shield wall. She could not help but take a look at her, Sanguinary Tempest. She was shocked to find that the orange-red luster on Sanguinary Tempest was spreading to the entire sawtooth blade at an astonishing speed. An unparalleled, murderous aura burst forth. Yes, Sanguinary Tempest had evolved. This was originally a slaughtering blade, and in the Sacred War, it had already experienced the baptism of countless battles and blood. It had been stained with too much blood. As a result, Sanguinary Tempest itself had long since turned blood-red. And today, it had been stained with the demon god's blood in his demon god form, and had finally become the last straw that tipped the scales. This slaughtering weapon had evolved to an even more terrifying realm. The leopard demon god Ozzy had barely dodged Wang Yuan's attack from the side, and continued to attack Long Houchin, but 2 thick shields had taken advantage of the moment of delay to hit him at the same time. It was Han Yu and Zhang Fangfang. However, the leopard demon god was a Type 9 powerhouse after all. Although they had hit him, the ones who were sent flying were Han Yu and Zhang Fangfang. Han Yu was in a slightly better state. He had the life-sharing soul chain, so even though he was sent flying, he was still in a better state. Although his body was sent flying, his entire body was emitting a strong golden light, and with the recovery of light's blessing, his injuries were minor. Zhang Fangfang, on the other hand, was sent flying a little further, but his cultivation was much more stable than Han Yu's. His body curled up as much as possible. Although he had spat out a mouthful of blood, his injuries were not serious. Their obstruction had bought time for the other person. The huge metal ball suddenly arrived, and thousands of purple lightning bolts shrouded Osai's body. Othello shouted, and the dark red flames rose even more violently, forcibly dispelling all of the purple lightning attacks. But there was one thing he couldn't resolve. That was one of the characteristics of lightning, absorption. At the same time that the purple lightning was dissolved, they also pulled a huge golden ball of light and caught up to Ozzy's body. Other felt a strong threat and could only raise his right arm to block the metal ball's attack. His thick arm came into contact with the metal ball, and immediately after, he felt a terrifying explosive force coming from within the metal ball. The rest of the glimmer of light monster hunters could clearly see that Othello's body had actually turned into a purple crystal color. He, who had been extremely fast previously, actually froze in mid-air. The metal ball on his body had also turned into a purple crystal color. A loud rumbling sound actually came from Othello's body. Without a doubt, this metal ball was Sima Xian's vigorous ball of light. Although it was the first time that they had seen such terrifying power, they had worked together for so many years. How could they let go of such an opportunity? Han Yu and Zhang Fangfang had been sent flying, but the rest were still there. Wang Yuan immediately waved her newly evolved sanguinary storm and charged forward. At the same time, a gray crystal-like radiance appeared behind the panther demon god. Kai Er, who had been hiding at the side, had finally made her move. Kai Er had already grasped the true essence of being an assassin. When facing a strong enemy, she would definitely not make a move, but once she did, it would definitely be earth-shattering. She hid in the shadows. Other than looking for an opportunity, she was also accumulating power. An assassin's accumulation was not as obvious as the knight's, but the explosion after accumulation was even more terrifying. Wang Yuan was not willing to fall behind, and the orange-red radiance on Sanguinary Storm suddenly retracted. Even the baleful blood chi around her retracted. If one were to look closely, they would realize that at this moment, there was actually a ripple of light circulating around Sanguinary Storm. The baleful blood chi had actually materialized and was used by Wang Yuan in her attacks. Just like how Long Haochen was not an ordinary Type 8 expert, his companions were similarly not ordinary Type 7 experts. Kai Er's Scythe of the God of Death was the first to cut into that purple lightning. That purple lightning didn't recognize people, but Kai Er's Scythe of the God of Death seemed to be insulated from it and wasn't affected at all. Death God 7 Ultimates. First Ultimate, Death's Demise. With a flash of gray, as though nothing had happened, Kai Er's body had already swept to the side. As for the second to hit the Panther Demon God, it was not Wang Yuan, but a strange dark blue flame. The flame turned into a straight line and instantly pierced the purple body, seemingly hitting at the same time as Death's Demise. The difference between the two was only a few millimeters, just that the positions were different. Next was Wang Yuan's Sanguinary Storm, and a golden blade covered in orange-red light. In such a situation, how could Long Haochen be absent? It wasn't like he only knew how to defend. Poof! Poof! Purple light burst forth, accompanied by a violent explosion, and Wang Yuan only felt a powerful explosive force coming from Sanguine Tempest. In an instant, she was blown away. Her body was numb, and she was somewhat unable to control it. Purple lightning coiled around her delicate body. She was actually affected by the residual power of the purple lightning. Fortunately, Zhang Fangfang rushed over from behind and caught her body. Several terrifying wounds interweaved on his body. The most fatal attack was still the grim Reaper Scythe strike. It had almost flung his entire back apart, and even his neck had been cut in half. There was a small charred hole on his chest, and the inside of the hole was also charred black. Sima Xian stumbled a few steps back and fell on his butt. Both him and the vigor pill of light in his hand had lost its luster. Fortunately, Han Yu's light's protection was not over yet. He quickly rushed to his side, supported him, and used light's protection to help him recover. At this time, the life-sharing effect of the soul chain was displayed. Although everyone was more or less eroded by the recoil, they bore the damage together. Bang! Other knelt on one knee. There was no blood flowing out of his body, but his huge body was constantly trembling, and it was rapidly shrinking. After being severely injured, he could no longer maintain his demon god state. Not to mention him, even the Light of Dawn monster hunters did not expect that they could launch such a joint attack on the leopard demon god Other. Long Haochen's aria of the Goddess of Light, Kai Er's Death of the Seven Absolutes, Wang Yuan's Sanguine Storm, and Lin Xian's Vulcan's finger and Hellfire Needle. The four's powerful attacks were too destructive in the short time that Sima Xian's Vigor Pill of Light was restricting Othar. Apart from Lin Xian, their weapons were all epic grade. Even Lin Xian had the boost from the Blue Fire Phoenix Spiritual Stove. Chening, Er's magic was already completed. A large number of magical beasts cooperated with Hao Yue's 6 tyrannical magic to suppress the leopard demon god outside the hall. At this time, no one could help the leopard demon god. He could only bear everything by himself. However, at this time, a terrifying, desolate aura suddenly emitted from the leopard demon god Othar's body, and his aura instantly soared. Around his body, a dark red whirlpool of flames rose, spreading wildly in all directions. "Careful, demon disintegration," Long Haochen shouted, and immediately raised the Sun-Moon Divine Snail Shield and rushed forward. He was the leader, and at this time, he was duty-bound. The Saint Spiritual Stove did not hesitate to use it again, increasing the attractive effect. When the dark red flames rushed out, Long Haochen knew that it was impossible to stop Othar from using the demon disintegration. The leopard demon god was different from the snake demon god. Snake demon god Andamari was only at the peak of the 8th step and had not reached the 9th step. But the leopard demon god was a true 9th step powerhouse. One could see that in the instant he used the sky demon disintegration technique. A dark red light shot out from behind, passing through the hall and entering his body. That was the amplification from the demon god pillars. The last 12 demon god pillars of the 9th step were worlds apart from the other demon gods. Therefore, when Long Haochen defeated the demon god Clauzel, it was largely because Clauzel did not have any demon god pillars by his side. The stronger the demon god, the greater the amplification effect of their demon god pillars. Long Haochen's expression was extremely solemn. Their combined attack just now could be said to have exceeded their usual standards, but they still could not completely kill the leopard demon god, who did not specialize in defensive power. The 72 demon god pillars of the demons were indeed too powerful. If there were 2 demon gods here, then the ones who would fail today would definitely be them. Even now, it was not easy to block the terrifying backlash of the leopard demon god Othar before his death. At the very least, it would be difficult to escape unscathed. That was why Long Haochen rushed forward without a care, to buy time for his companions to leave the battlefield. No matter how powerful the demon disintegration technique was, it was the final ability of the demon god burning his life. With Othar's current physical condition, he would definitely die after using the demon disintegration technique. From the first battle with the demon god until now, Long Haochen and his companions had never resisted the demon god's demon disintegration technique. Therefore, they did not know to what extent the amplification of the demon disintegration technique could be achieved. However, since this was the demon god's last resort, the backlash before his death would definitely not be easy to deal with. Moreover, Long Haochen could completely guess Othar's thoughts. Other than using the demon disintegration technique to inflict heavy damage on his side, his other motive was to ensure that his demon god crown could escape and not let his godly position be lost. Long Haochen was a little regretful. He knew that he had made a mistake. One was that he had underestimated his companions, and the other was that he had been too confident and did not plan a sufficient escape route. If they had planned their escape route before the battle, they could have gathered together and activated the Eternal Melody to teleport. They could have teleported back after the power of the demon disintegration technique ended. They did not need to withstand the leopard demon god Othar's final attack at all. As for his demon god's crown escaping, let him escape. With Hao Yue around to destroy his demon god pillar, what was the use of the demon god crown escaping? However, it was too late for regrets now. His companions were scattered, and he was quite far away from Chun Inger and Lin Xian. It was impossible to teleport everyone away at once. Therefore, no matter what, he had to use his own strength to block Othar's final attack. Roar! As he roared, the heavily injured Othar changed. The dark red vortex around his body converged at an alarming speed. Othar, who was originally in human form, had turned into a giant dark red leopard that was more than 5 meters long. His aura was so strong that it was even more terrifying than when he had transformed into a demon. Long Haochin had been maintaining the divine artifact Sun Moon Divine Snail Shield, and he had used up a lot of his spiritual power. Could he still deal with the leopard demon god in this state? He had vaguely understood the true meaning of the demon's demon disintegration technique, giving up on the physical body, activating the demonic nature of the origin, and releasing the power of the origin for the final combustion. This attack was not easy to block. Just as Long Haochin was ready to receive the final attack of the leopard demon god after the demon disintegration technique, a deafening roar suddenly sounded behind him. Then, Long Haochin's body was covered by a thick layer of purple. The golden foundation armor on his body was instantly dyed with a layer of purple gold. The purple halo that came from behind not only covered Long Haochin's body, but also the huge body of the leopard demon god Othar. Suddenly, a strange scene appeared. Othar's body, which was burning with dark red flames, stiffened instantly. Then, one could see that the dark red flames on his body were quickly extinguished, as if a large basin of ice water had been poured over it. This sudden change was too strange. Long Haochin watched as the incomparably strong body of the leopard demon god went from existence to nothing in an instant, and finally turned into a wisp of black smoke and dissipated. A dark red demon god's crown panicked and wanted to rush out of the tight encirclement. However, as soon as it was covered by the purple halo, it instantly lost all its vitality and fell to the ground with a crisp clang. The members of the Bright Glimmer of Dawn Demon Hunt Squad were all dumbstruck. How did this trick work? It was just that in an instant, the leopard demon god, who was so strong just a moment ago, was killed just like that. They looked at the emitter of the purple halo at the same time. Hao Yue's 6 large heads were raised high, and his 6 pairs of eyes had turned completely purple. He was so arrogant, as if he was looking down on all living things. Xiaohua opened his mouth and inhaled. The demon god's crown immediately flew towards him and was directly swallowed into his stomach. Wang Yuanyuan murmured, "I finally understand why the demon emperor wanted to start a holy war for boss. Hao Yue is indeed the nemesis of demons. He can even break through the demon god's great demon disintegration technique." Long Haochin was also shocked. Of course, he knew that Hao Yue had a strong restraining ability against demons, but he didn't expect it to be this strong. However, as the leader, he obviously couldn't just stand there and stare blankly. All of you returned to Hao Yue's back. Although they were strong, there were only 8 of them. There were tens of thousands of leopard demons outside, and they could easily exhaust them to death. Of course, that was only if they were willing to stay and fight. As Long Haochin spoke, he had already flashed to Sima Xian's side, grabbed him by his armor, and lifted him up. The 4 wings on his back flapped, and he flashed back to Hao Yue's back. The others also returned. At this moment, a strange scene was happening around Hao Yue's body. The 18 living spirit gates were flashing rapidly. Every time they swallowed, 18 demons would rush out and fight against the leopard demons. Although the hall was spacious, it seemed narrow in the face of this level of battle. At least no leopard demons could rush over to stop them, especially the leopard demons who were already in the hall. Seeing that the leopard demon god Othello was killed, their morale immediately dropped. They were forcefully pushed out of the hall by the demons. Chening ordered the demons to guard all the exits. At this moment, she was still carrying Madol in her arms. Madol was her last hope. Hao Yue, let's go look for the demon god pillars. When the last of his companions got on Hao Yue's back, Long Haochin immediately shouted, ordering Hao Yue to move. Hao Yue's 6 big heads were obviously excited, and they rushed forward arrogantly. Little light, little fire, little green, little blue, little purple, and little yellow all blasted their magic forward at the same time. They forcefully opened up a path in the hall. They led Long Haochin and the others towards the backyard of the leopard demon palace. Inside the demons, Long Haochin no longer had any misgivings. Not only did they want to kill the demon god, but they also wanted to shake the foundation of the demons. Every time they lost a demon god pillar, the foundation of the demons would be shaken a little. If they could destroy all the demon god pillars one day, then the demons would probably cease to exist. Thinking of this, the members of the Bright Glimmer of Dawn Demon Hunt Squad clearly showed intense excitement in their eyes. One leopard demon god wasn't much, but it was still a good start. Under Hao Yue's rampage, they forcefully broke through the hall and rushed out. The leopard demons were rushing through the hall from other entrances, and there weren't many leopard demons behind them. Hao Yue seemed to be able to sense the specific location of the demon god pillars. After breaking through 2 more buildings, he brazenly rushed to the backyard. At this moment, 2 streaks of yellow light attacked from both sides like lightning. They were directed at Hao Yue. Long Haochen was fully focused and on his guard. He didn't even need to use his eyes to determine who these 2 enemies were. With his spiritual detection, he could accurately sense the strength of their spiritual power. Without a doubt, these were 2 golden leopard demons. There was no need for Long Haochen to make a move. The 2 Guardianite demons behind him had already rushed out. Han Yu pounced towards the golden leopard demon on the left. His speed couldn't compare to the golden leopard demon, but as a knight, he also had his own mounts. Although he couldn't ride them, a layer of distorted light spread out in the shape of a fan and struck the golden leopard demon's body. Suddenly, the golden leopard demon's body turned sluggish. It didn't seem to slow down, but it seemed a little stiff. Han Yu pointed the scarlet berserk sword in his hand forward. Suddenly, a golden light emitted from his sword. Strangely, after the sword light was released, it spread out in a fan shape and accurately enveloped the golden leopard devil. One could clearly see that the darkness aura on the golden leopard demon's body dimmed after it was covered by this layer of golden light. This is Elemental Annihilation Halo. Han Yu had actually reduced the radius of this halo, but he had strengthened its effects. Long Haochen wasn't the only genius. Everyone in the Light of Dawn was a genius. A powerful, distorted wave of light shot out and struck the golden leopard demon's body. This was the full strength of the Evil Eye Lord. It hadn't been summoned by Han Yu during today's battle. It was only now that it unleashed its might. The spiritual wings on Han Yu's back flapped, and the wild scarlet blood sword chased after the golden leopard demon. With his cultivation and the cooperation of the Evil Eye Lord, dealing with a golden leopard demon wasn't a problem. Moreover, he had the upper hand. On the other side, Zhang Fangfang pounced out. His body was already shining with golden light in the air. His equipment wasn't as good as the rest of the Light of Dawn monster hunters, but he had participated in more battles than anyone else present. To be able to become the leader of a monster hunters team and grow to the 7th rank, how could his ability be inferior to others? His cultivation was the same as Wang Yuan's 7th rank 5. The only difference was that he was slightly inferior to Wang Yuan in terms of quantity. This was because he had been fending off enemies for Wang Yuan in the Holy War. Wang Yuan, who had let go of her killing, had more opportunities to comprehend than him. However, that didn't mean that Zhang Fangfang's comprehension was inferior to hers. Ever since he joined the Light of Dawn monster hunters, Zhang Fangfang often asked Long Haochen for guidance. With Long Haochen's guidance, his cultivation had improved rapidly recently. As he pounced out, a golden light shone beneath him. A 6-legged flying horse quietly appeared and carried his body. The 6-legged flying horse's body suddenly erupted with a fiery radiance that was as bright as the sun. Zhang Fangfang slashed forward with the heavy sword in his right hand. His right arm instantly turned bright gold. It was the glorious body. Light and flames instantly fused into one in the air, forming a huge flaming blade that slashed towards the golden leopard demon. At the same time, Zhang Fangfang's other hand still had the strength to summon a shield wall to protect Hao Yue's flank. The golden leopard demon was, after all, a Type 8 powerhouse. Facing the flaming blade, its body twisted strangely, and it immediately changed direction, continuing to pounce towards Hao Yue. A pair of sharp claws slammed into Zhang Fangfang's shield wall. A Type 7 versus a Type 8. Without the absolute advantage of equipment, it was almost impossible to defend against it. This was the situation now. The shield wall crumbled, but it still managed to block the golden leopard demon. Just as the golden leopard demon was about to continue attacking, it suddenly felt its body heat up, and it subconsciously turned around. What he saw was countless golden red flames sweeping towards him from all directions, forcefully enveloping his body. These golden red flames were the result of Zhang Fangfang's flaming blade. This was his self-created skill, Holy Flame Cage. Zhang Fangfang's mount was of the fire attribute. Although he could also unleash the flames of light, it took time to condense them. To be able to fuse the flames of his mount with his own light, this required him to have a shocking degree of compatibility with his mount. At the same time, he also needed to have incredible control. The gold leopard demon immediately let out a miserable shriek. The powerful combination of light and fire elemental energy produced an extremely strong burning and corrosive effect on the gold leopard demon. Zhang Fangfang raised the heavy sword in his right hand, and a faint red light flashed across his body. Spirit burning. Immediately afterward, a holy white light shot out from the tip of his heavy sword and struck the golden leopard demon, who was temporarily restrained by the holy fire cage. With a loud explosion, the golden leopard demon was sent flying back to the ground, its entire body still burning with golden red flames. Its body trembled violently. Light of Judgment. This was a Tier 8 single-target knight skill that could be learned by both the Guardian Knight and the Discipline Knight. Light of Judgment's offensive power wasn't particularly strong. At the very least, it wasn't considered very strong among Tier 8 light-type spells. However, Light of Judgment possessed a powerful purification effect. In other words, if the enemy was of the darkness attribute, then Light of Judgment would be extremely powerful. If it wasn't of the darkness attribute, then it would be much weaker. Zhang Fangfang had relied on his spirit-burning realm to activate Light of Judgment. At the same time, another figure appeared behind him. If he had been paying close attention from the start of the battle, he would have discovered that this figure had already appeared behind him as soon as he had mounted his six-legged flying horse. However, because it was sticking close to Zhang Fangfang's back, the golden leopard demon hadn't been able to see it. Light of Judgment was in Tier 8 skill. Even with the spirit-burning realm, Zhang Fangfang couldn't possibly cast it instantly. The chanting of the incantation was done by the figure behind him. This was another version of Zhang Fangfang that was separated from his unique second life spiritual stove. The spiritual stove didn't have any equipment, but it had 80% of Zhang Fangfang's strength. With his current cultivation base, he wouldn't be able to complete the incantation. However, after years of bitter cultivation and battle, Zhang Fangfang had already evolved this spiritual stove once. Not only did it allow the clone to have 90% of his own strength, but it could also instantly link the spiritual energy of the two clones when he was at the spirit-burning realm. This allowed his cultivation base to rise to the peak of the 7th stage in a short period of time. When combined with the fact that he had instantly reached the spirit-burning realm, Light of Judgment naturally appeared. More importantly, when the Sacred Flame Cage was struck by the Light of Judgment, the Sacred Flame Cage also changed and became the Sacred Flame Judgment. Holy Flame Judgment was also a Tier 8 Knight skill, but it was a Tier 8 Punishment Knight skill. Out of all of the Punishment Knights ranged single-target attacks, Holy Flame Judgment was one of the most powerful. The entire battle had been completed in an extremely short period of time. Even the strongest knight, Long Haochen, couldn't help but feel shocked when he saw this. Zhang Fangfang's series of attacks could be described with the word amazing. It seemed simple, but in reality, it was a perfect fusion of intelligence and strength. By relying on his Tier 5 or Tier 6 cultivation base, he was able to unleash Holy Flame Judgment, a skill that even a Saint Knight might not necessarily be able to use. His understanding of the knight's skills had already reached a level of perfection. Without question, Zhang Fangfang and Long Haochen walked different paths. Long Haochen focused more on improving himself and his own abilities. On the other hand, Zhang Fangfang relied on comprehending the knight's skills and performing them in his own way to obtain great strength. The six-legged Pegasus carried two Zhang Fangfangs and charged down towards the Golden Panther demon below. The Golden Panther demon that had been struck by Holy Flame Judgment was no match for him. Without a doubt, Zhang Fangfang had used his full strength to gain an overwhelming advantage over the Tier 8 demon in such a short period of time. There were other members of the Light of Dawn monster hunters, so he didn't have to go all out. However, he had to prove himself. He had to prove that he was useful to the team. Although he had a relationship with Wang Yuan, as a knight, how could he rely on his connections to stay in such a team? He had to prove to the members of the Light of Dawn monster hunters that he had the strength to stay in the team. During the 2 years of the Holy War, he hadn't improved much, but that didn't mean that he didn't have potential. Recently, he had been accumulating strength, and his strength was increasing at an alarming rate. With Han Yu and Zhang Fangfang blocking 2 Tier 8 Golden Panther demons, Hao Yue didn't have any more obstacles in front of him. When he rushed into a huge hall again, a tall and straight demon god pillar appeared in front of everyone. The demon god pillar was thick, but not slender. It was only a dozen meters tall, not even reaching the top of the hall. However, its cross-section was at least 3 meters in diameter. The luster on the dark red demon god pillar had dimmed, but the leopard patterns on it could still be vaguely seen. Hao Yue, it's up to you now. Long Haochen and his companions jumped down from Hao Yue's back. Without needing his orders, everyone had already blocked the path behind them. Seeing the demon god pillar, Hao Yue's gaze instantly became excited, and an indescribable emotion burst forth from his body. There was excitement, pain, sadness, and even more resentment. The 6 heads roared at the sky, and Hao Yue's body seemed to be ignited. The amethyst scales emitted a dazzling amethyst light, and layers of purple were constantly released from his body. Although the purple light was not targeted at the monster hunters from the glimmer of Light of Dawn. However, apart from Long Haochen, everyone else felt a chill run down their spines. They couldn't help but activate their spiritual energy to resist. Perhaps it felt Hao Yue's aura. The Panther Demon God's 57th Demon God Pillar suddenly lit up. The intense dark red light spread out like a halo. Long Haochen, who was standing beside Hao Yue, felt that the Demon God Pillar seemed to have come to life, and the tyrannical and sharp aura instantly increased. However, behind this fierceness, there was a faint feeling of being tough in appearance. Was it afraid? The dark red light immediately dissipated when it came into contact with the purple light on Hao Yue's body. At this moment, the eyes of Hao Yue's 6 heads had become crystal clear purple again. Its 2 front claws grabbed the ground forcefully, and Hao Yue let out a low roar continuously. Demon God Pillar. Another Demon God Pillar appeared in front of it. Hao Yue's angry roar lasted for a long time. It was filled with endless anger. Long Haochen's eyes had also turned purple at some point in time, and on his forehead, 9 purple runes of light slowly appeared. The surface of his skin, which was hidden under the golden foundation armor, had already rippled with a layer of purple gold luster. As Hao Yue's angry roar intensified, Long Haochen was shocked to find that he actually felt a surge of power, and the spiritual energy in his body seemed to be burning. Even the spiritual light emitted by the golden foundation armor on his body had completely turned purple gold. Such a strong aura. After Hao Yue had 6 heads, there seemed to be a qualitative change. It was not as simple as advancing from rank 7 to rank 8. Elementary rank 8 cultivation? No, it was impossible. The power hidden in Hao Yue's bloodline was too terrifying. It was because he had a part of Hao Yue's bloodline that Long Haochen could feel it more clearly. Back then, he used his own blood to change Hao Yue's attribute on the Night Holy Mountain. When Hao Yue survived, he used his own blood to feed Long Haochen. Because of this, they established a close relationship, like the blood contract. Long Haochen's advancement would promote the advancement of Hao Yue's cultivation. On the other hand, every time Hao Yue evolved, Long Haochen would also benefit greatly. Previously, when he destroyed Snake Demon God Andamari's Demon God Pillars, Hao Yue still had 5 heads, and his condition was similar to now. But without a doubt, this time, Hao had become even stronger. The purple halo became stronger and stronger, and actually suppressed the light of the leopard demon god pillars, causing the aura of fear to become more and more obvious. Layers of strange light patterns continued to spread from the demon god pillars, and then shot into the sky. Long Haochen's heart moved. Was this the leopard demon god pillars asking for help from the other demon god pillars? At this moment, he suddenly had a thought from Hao Yue. What? You want me to do it? Long Haochen looked at Hao Yue in shock. Hao Yue's 6 heads also looked at him at the same time, and under the deep gaze of all 12 eyes, they all nodded at him. All right. Long Haochen understood that Hao Yue must have his reasons for asking him to do this. In a flash, Long Haochen had already floated out, and the 4 spirit wings on his back spread out. At this moment, Hao Yue's 6 heads shone brightly at the same time, and all of them opened their mouths, spitting out intense purple light, which was injected into Long Haochen's body from behind. Long Haochen's body trembled. At that moment, he suddenly felt that he had changed, and he seemed to no longer be a human. An indescribable majesty burst out from his body. At this moment, Long Haochen only felt that his thoughts and senses were strengthened 100 times. In his spiritual consciousness, it was as if he had returned to the black and red world that Hao Yue belonged to. His thoughts and vision were limitless, and it was a feeling of looking down on all living things, as if he was high and mighty. It was as if he could destroy everything with a raise of his hand. Chapter 217. Long Haochen finally understood what that purple color was at this moment. That was the will of destruction. If his light element was already the purest in the holy demon continent, then this aura of destruction from Hao Yue was the highest existence of all the will of destruction. Is destruction an attribute? Long Haochen wasn't sure, but he absolutely understood that this aura of destruction was by no means comparable to any attribute he knew. The other monster hunters of the Light of Dawn were also watching Long Haochen, and their feelings were different again. When Long Haochen's body was illuminated by the 6 rays of purple light spat out by the bright moon, his whole body exuded an indescribable purple-gold brilliance. That majesty was like a god floating in front of his believers, like a king standing proudly above his subjects. Within this dignity, there is also unparalleled arrogance and power. At this moment, everything about Long Haochen turned purple gold, but it was different from the purple gold color that Hao Yue and his body had fused. This purple gold color belonged entirely to him, whether it was spiritual power or spiritual wings. Long Haochen could feel that he was only at the beginning of this pure and terrifying will of destruction. But even so, he found that his power seemed to have become different. What made him a little afraid was that the light element in his body was not the purple gold color produced by the fusion of this will of destruction. Instead, it was produced after being completely enveloped by the will of destruction. The light element attribute of the blessed of the goddess of light, the son of light, did not even struggle. What kind of level was this destructive will at? Perhaps it was not real spiritual power, like a physical attack, at least not yet. However, its existence possessed a supreme might. The demon emperor coercion was more substantial, but Long Haochen faintly felt that even the demon emperor might not have the upper hand against this will of destruction. Of course, this was only a comparison of the level of the will. The aria of the goddess of light had already appeared in Long Haochen's hands, and the purple gold sword light was flickering. The body of the sword let out a slight buzzing sound. Every time Long Haochen used the aria of the goddess of light in battle, he could clearly feel the excitement of the divine sword during battle. But at this moment, when the will of destruction was injected, Long Haochen was surprised to find that the aria of the goddess of light was no longer buzzing excitedly, but trembling. The purplish gold sword light did not belong to the level of a divine artifact, but it seemed to have a special characteristic, a characteristic of destruction, which completely suppressed the special characteristic of the demon god pillar. Ah! Long Haochen roared, raising the aria of the goddess of light high above his head. In an instant, a strong purplish gold light burst forth from his body, and the purple intent that Haoyue had injected into him also stopped. In the next instant, Long Haochen felt the blood in his body boiling, as if something had produced a miraculous fusion. The terrifying sword intent caused a strange shadow to appear behind Long Haochen. That shadow was actually himself, but it had a pair of eyes that were completely different from his. It was a pair of eyes filled with coldness, with an evil charm within the coldness, as well as endless arrogance and nobility that looked down on all living beings. Break! The aria of the goddess of light slashed forward, and with that resplendent and magnificent purplish gold sword light, it brazenly slashed onto the demon god pillar of the leopard demon god. Puff! The blade sank into the demon god pillar, all the way to the hilt. It was also at this moment that the illusory figure behind Long Haochen quietly disappeared, as if it had completely fused with his body. An unprecedented sense of power burst forth from within Long Haochen's body. He felt as if his entire body was on fire, and he roared again, "Ah, ah, ah." The purplish gold color rapidly spread, and the 57th demon god pillar of the demons that was originally dark red quickly became the same color. In the next moment, cracks began to appear from the place where the aria of the goddess of light slashed, and they spread in all directions. The 12 eyes on Haoyue's 6 heads were all staring at Long Haochen, and their eyes revealed the light of hope. At this moment, Long Haochen clearly felt a strange power flowing into his body through the aria of the goddess of light. This power instantly fused with his own power, and in just an instant, the fusion that he had felt before appeared. The purplish gold light on his body also became faintly discernible. Boom! The demon god pillar collapsed and turned into countless purplish gold lights that scattered in all directions. However, it didn't seem to have a physical body, and only a terrifying wave of spiritual power swept in all directions. Haoyue roared again, and the purple intent reappeared. The spiritual power that appeared after the demon god pillar's destruction was immediately suppressed, and Long Haochen also fell from the sky. Haoyue turned back to look at the people from the glimmer of light and roared at them. At the same time, Light's head lit up with a golden light, and it swept up the falling Long Haochen and pulled him onto its back. The people from the glimmer of light monster hunters didn't dare to be negligent, and quickly returned to Haoyue's back. Haoyue raised its head and roared, and 6 breaths shot out, brazenly bombarding the roof of the hall. Its 4 limbs landed on the ground, and its huge wings spread out, and it had already taken everyone into the sky. Just as valiantly as when it came, it forcibly broke through the shackles of the hall's roof and rushed high into the sky. Amidst the roars of countless leopard demons, they flew into the distance. Long Haochen was lying on Haoyue's back, as if he had lost his consciousness, but his right hand was still tightly holding the aria of the goddess of light. His body was faintly discernible with a purplish gold light. Kai hurriedly went over to help him up, but Light suddenly turned its head and roared at Kai. "You don't want me to touch him?" Kai asked doubtfully. Light nodded at her and then turned around again. Its huge wings suddenly flapped, and its speed suddenly increased, and it flew into the distance. Kai naturally understood the feelings between Long Haochen and Haoyue. Previously, it was Haoyue who asked him to destroy the demon god pillar, so it clearly had its own intentions. It definitely wouldn't harm Long Haochen. Everyone had experienced countless battles. Although the battle just now had made them emotional, they all clearly knew what was the most important thing right now. They all sat cross-legged on Haoyue's back and did their best to recover their spiritual energy in order to be able to adapt at any time. Although the demon army had been attracted to the front lines by the holy war, this was still the territory of the demons, and they could encounter the demon army again at any time. The purplish gold light on Long Haochen's body continued to flicker, but in reality, he hadn't lost his consciousness. What he had lost was control over his body. He only felt that his body had undergone some strange changes and was changing. This change wasn't due to his spiritual energy, because after he destroyed the demon god pillar, his spiritual energy had already regained its light attribute. Could this be the next step of my bloodline fusion with Hao Yue? Long Haochen thought to himself. What he could do now was to relax his body and mind, and let this fusion continue naturally. But what he didn't understand was why this fusion happened after he seemed to have obtained a portion of the demon god pillar's power. This time, Hao Yue's flight was very long. He flew towards the south, and after a full 4 hours, he slowly landed in a valley. After floating down, Hao Yue's broad back suddenly shook, and a violent vibration immediately shook everyone off his back. He didn't even look at the light of dawn monster hunters, and Little Light had already released another golden light to sweep up Long Haochen's body. Then, he carefully let it land on the ground in front of him. 6 big heads surrounded Long Haochen, and if one looked carefully, they would find that each of the 6 big heads' eyes revealed a worried look. Who knew what they were worried about? Especially Little Light. Its emotion seemed a little unstable, and it was still letting out low whimpers. Time passed by, and after a full 6 hours, the purplish-gold color on Long Haochen's body finally faded completely, and everything seemed to have returned to normal. Because of the protection of Hao Yue's 6 big heads, no one from the light of dawn monster hunters could get close to him, let alone know about his situation. The most anxious one was naturally Kai. If she wasn't sure that Hao Yue wouldn't harm Long Haochen, she would have already rushed over by force. Long Haochen let out a light snort and turned over to sit up. However, the first thing he did was to stare blankly at Hao Yue, and his eyes were full of confusion. For the past few hours, he could be said to be completely unaware of the changes in his body. At this moment, he only felt that everything had returned to normal, and he was still himself, and his spiritual power was still the same. It wasn't strengthened, nor weakened. It was as if nothing had changed. But in his subconsciousness, he was deeply aware that something must have changed in his body. Moreover, this change was closely related to Hao Yue, and should be a very good change. Hao Yue, what's wrong with me? Long Haochen asked doubtfully. Hao Yue gently shook his head, and the 6 big heads shook together looked a little funny, but the kindness and gentleness in his eyes immediately softened Long Haochen's heart. The 6 big heads all lowered and moved closer to Long Haochen and gently touched his body. Long Haochen could only touch them one by one. I know you must be doing this for my own good, but why won't you tell me what's going on? Long Haochen asked Hao Yue more than once about its origin and ability. But every time, Hao Yue would look at him pitifully and wouldn't say anything. This time, it was the same, especially Light. Its head moved closer and rubbed against Long Haochen's body. But Long Haochen caught the worry in its eyes. Light, what are you worried about? Long Haochen asked softly. Light shook its head again, and then its eyes suddenly became resolute. Its dignified gaze swept across the other 5 heads, and then it let out a low roar. The other 5 heads also roared without hesitation, as if they were swearing an oath. Long Haochen didn't understand what they were doing. Light was telling the other head something and making them agree to something. Could it be related to me? At this moment, Long Haochen was confused. After Light received the affirmation from the other heads, its expression seemed to relax, and it looked at Long Haochen with a gentle gaze, and a thought flashed in his mind. Master, no matter what, we will always protect you. We will never betray you. With that, without waiting for Long Haochen to ask, Hao Yue had already turned into a ball of purple light and disappeared in front of him. It had actually teleported away. Won't betray me? How could Hao Yue betray me? But what did it mean by saying that? For a moment, Long Haochen couldn't help but feel a headache. As his strength increased, Hao Yue seemed to have become more and more mysterious. Boss, are you all right? As soon as Hao Yue left, the glimmer of light monster hunters immediately gathered around. They all looked at him with concern. Long Haochen smiled and said, I'm fine. Hao Yue must have allowed me to fuse with some of its power. It wouldn't say what exactly happened, but it's definitely not a bad thing. Hearing this, everyone immediately heaved a sigh of relief, and their expressions relaxed. The excitement that they had been suppressing all along also leaked out. Boss, we really killed another demon god. How many of the 72 demons have already been killed by us? Not counting those that haven't been destroyed, there are already 2. This is the 57th demon god. We've probably earned another 1,000,000 merit points. Just how many merit points do we have now? Even the usually calm Han, you couldn't help but jump in excitement. Long Houchin chuckled and said, I don't know how many merit points we have either, but I feel like we should properly interrogate a certain person. Hearing this, everyone's gazes instantly focused on a certain bald man. There was doubt in their surprise, but even more excitement. Ha 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 ha. Sima Xian laughed proudly and patted Lin Xian's shoulder and said, Brother has medicine. Isn't your famous saying, brother has medicine? In the future, I will also have a famous saying, brother has money. Lin Xian asked curiously, where did you get the money? Sima Xian laughed and said, I don't have money, but I can live off a woman. My wife is rich. What? You have a wife? This immediately attracted everyone's curiosity. Wang Yuanyuan drew out her sanguine storm and said fiercely, we really need to properly interrogate this baldy. During the 2 years of the Holy War, we risked our lives every day. But he, on the other hand, not only did he find a wife, but he also changed his bird gun for a cannon. Hurry up and tell the truth. Sima Xian laughed out loud once again, but he didn't say anything. His expression was even more infuriating, as if he was keeping them in suspense. Kai raised a grim reaper scythe in her hand slightly. Do you want to be ganged up on? Don't, Deputy Leader. I'll tell you, all right? Do you still remember Little White Flower in the Holy City?